such good ASMR though. You throw up like a little rain in the background, throw up maybe a fireplace crackling, put up the snore.
Oh, we could do one of those sleeping rooms, textile.
Perhaps any round of PGA Tour from 2019.
Little golf claps in the background.
Oh yeah.
Nothing like those Sunday afternoon naps watching a little golf.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Oh, they're the best. Little hushed, dulcet tones.
But if it's a tech sleeping room, it should be like a dial-up modem or something.
Something that, no, those are anxiety-inducing. When you have slow, for some reason, it's counterintuitive. Slow connections actually cause you to have an anxiety attack.
Up next, we have Justin Thomas. He's got a 12-yard putt here left for a par.
That's
He's
it.
going to break left. He's going to break left if he can just catch the windbreak here. There is an alligator on the wall.
Hey, Tyler.
This happens to be the most exciting round of the year.
I'm so
He's about to hold on, Michael. He's about with this putt. He could actually make golf history.
The crowd is going wild.
I just lost 6 years of my life listening to that.
Hey, Tyler.
Yes.
Got a question for you. Do you know Brock Pierce personally?
Yes.
Well, take a look at the tweet that I just tweeted.
Okay, let's do this.
To tech
Take a look
around
at
the world.
the tweet that you just twat.
You just twatted.
What's up,
Just twatted that one.
Amy, are you twatting?
You twatting right now?
You can't say that without a Brooklyn accent.
No, I'm about to do
defy
a
it.
yoga session in a little bit.
You twatting right now?
We're gonna get serious.
No, I'm
I
joking.
don't think we're gonna get serious. No matter what
You got a hot dog
try
and
to
some
do.
coffee?
You doing the twat? You
Get a
twatting
hot
at
dog
me? You
and
well,
some
hang on.
coffee.
You wait. You twatting at me?
Yeah, I'm twatting at you. I'm also
I can't have a serious Zoom call being on this club.
A twat, a coffee, bada boom, bada bing.
Next thing you know, you're twatting here, you're twatting there, you're twatting everywhere. I don't. Oh, the K Bueno tweet. Yes. What is that?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Basically, the
Oh, it's a reply.
ambassador for United States El Salvador,
Yep.
El Salvador ambassador is heading with Brock Pierce to El Salvador,
But
and
we're-
he just tweeted that there's something coming.
Yeah, but weren't you in the room when Brock joined us like 4 days ago?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was there. But this is also very interesting because Costa Rica also started to kind of do some tweets around it, following other Latin American people. Costa Rica's also started in Spanish. So
Yep. It's gonna get crazy, y'all, and Brock will be
it's the wild west of crypto.
Yeah, and but I'm saying Brock will likely be at the center of it, and it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get wild. Those Bitcoin kids and their crazy coins.
And this is his club. He said so.
Yeah, he did say that, didn't he? That was funny.
And
Bitcoin
for
kids
us,
on the
it's
blog.
a great friend of his, and so is Tyler. So this is just he's going to come here and share it with us.
He said he found his club.
This will be fun to watch.
Yeah.
That was a takeaway.
Yep. So let's jump into it, shall we? First of all, we just came from Justin's room. Justin and Jeff put together my favorite room in Clubhouse about political news from the capitals of the world. And if you're not joining us there yet, that starts 2 hours before this room, and we hang out there. And it's very similar to what we do here as geeks and the way we do the tech news. They do as political geeks with political news, and with the G7 going on right now, and with Biden meeting up with big Vladdy Daddy over in Geneva. Yeah, we're meeting Putin today. Stuff's going down over there in Geneva, and it's going to be a showdown because for those who, Justin, you fill him in on the heat between Biden and Big Vladdy, because
Putin on the bits.
But Biden doesn't like Daddy Vladdy.
Yeah.
That much. No, there's so many tensions, and it does intertwine with tech. So we will kind of end with that. But basically, what we have happening here is the U.S. President Biden is meeting with Putin amidst a real deterioration of our relationship between Russia and the United States. And why does that matter? Folks, these people have nuclear weapons. We don't want a deterioration of this relationship. We don't want Russia to kind of stoke wars around the world or potentially give other countries nuclear proliferation. We want a relationship where these two countries can work together. But to really put this into perspective, Biden blames Putin for meddling in our elections in 2016. He calls Vladimir Putin a stone cold killer. And he really doesn't believe that Vladimir Putin wants to have bilateral relations. On the other side, Vladimir Putin's kind of paranoid. He sees Joe Biden as a return to the establishment of the United States, a country that is now working strongly with allies, a country that is working with allies to push Russia back off the eastern border of Europe. And that doesn't sit well with Vladimir Putin. So they're going to have a discussion, hopefully cooler heads will prevail. But I think from the tech angle, one of the big things here is a week ago, as everybody knows, Russia's likely responsible in large part for a few different hacks that happened in the United States.
No.
SolarWinds. So Tyler's covered these hacks too, folks.
How dare you?
So Putin's responsible for SolarWinds. He's responsible for the Colonial Pipeline hack, which is an energy hack on our oil system, and then also the meat hack, which is a hack that disrupted 25% of our agriculture meat production. Putin said that he essentially will agree to extradite these criminals who were using blockchain cryptocurrencies to get their ransom payments, and there's a whole saga that Tyler has been covering here in Tech News Around the World. But ultimately, it's recently come out that Putin will only give those people up, those criminals, those terrorists, as the former CIA director for the United States called them, if the United States is going to do some type of prisoner swap. And I'm assuming Putin would want high-level intelligence officers that we have locked up, and maybe we aren't calling them intelligence officers. So that's kind of the news behind the news that intertwines politics and tech with the biggest news story in the world today. And I will kick it back to you, good sir.
Yeah, well, it keeps going because there's also the FBI director and the chief security officer at Facebook, no less, directly tracked down all of the kind of misinformation campaigns on Facebook, of which there's scores of them, and they've categorized them. And the winner of the most information of 2020 award went to one Vladimir Putin on Facebook, from the chief security officer of Facebook, no less. So it's and that misinformation is all around COVID, all around vaccines, all around Black Lives Matter, all around any kind of social separation. And that's the name of the campaign. And both the FBI director and the Facebook's head of cybersecurity are both directly point at the Kremlin as the source of all of this kind of intentional division campaigns within the U.S. And there was, don't forget, there was about a month ago, you guys remember this wild headline that we covered? There was a French YouTuber with 1 million followers, and there were several French YouTubers and German social media influencers who were receiving a proposal to spread very obvious misinformation about the AstraZeneca vaccine killing people more than other vaccines, etc. You remember this? And then it was
big news.
Yeah, and then it was tracked down. They were claiming the source of that proposal was saying that they were a UK-based PR agency, but of course, no PR agency would ever do anything like this, especially if they had any connection to any kind of pharmaceutical company. That would just be, that's truly stupid, absurd level of stupidity. And then the intelligence agencies got involved, as you know that they would, and the French agencies tracked it down to, surprise, I mean, this is just truly unbelievable, but to the Kremlin. I mean, who would have figured?
No way.
Yes way. It's truly remarkable. But that's the current state of social media warfare, and it's never ending. And then you've got Russia battling Google and Twitter and YouTube, and about the control for content there, and who's going to control that content, and who has to take what down, and simultaneously the Kremlin's telling YouTube specifically that they need to take down certain accounts that they don't like, that they claim, this is real rich irony for you here, that YouTube is trying to cause misinformation campaigns and cause division amongst the Russian people. Oh, how ironic. Project a little much, do we, Vlad? Little projection there. And
maybe that's why Vlad and Trump got along so well. They're masters of projection.
Interesting, though, is it not, that all of this kind of Russian hacking was quite subdued during the Trump era. And interesting that it all kicked up under Biden's watch, and that there's an incredible effort to, want to cause as much havoc during Biden because Trump will run against him very soon. And so there's a lot to gain by minimizing Mr. Joe Biden until the next election. So because we know which candidate Putin would prefer, no doubt. So let's dive into it, shall we? That's a little taste of like the political tech stuff, but there's a whole lot more political tech stuff on this theme. And do follow Justin, because he does, as he just demonstrated, host the best political discussions here in Clubhouse. Not only in Clubhouse, I dare say in social media, honestly. I mean, there's good stuff on YouTube. There's a few good YouTubers who do some stuff, but nothing at the level that Justin does. And it's certainly not in the collaborative way where people are able to participate and bring in insights from their part of the world on stage in ways that you just can't do on YouTube. So it's kudos to Clubhouse as well for enabling such a transformative way to digest and co-create the news like we do here and like he's doing there. It's fantastic. So
like a truly humble man, Justin is.
Yeah.
Humble. Scholar and what do you call him? Scholar.
Gentleman and a scholar.
No, Cal. You and Tyler are the gentlemen.
No, you
and the scholars.
No. I am.
Boy with a
No,
bucket of
that's
dreams.
me. It's all me,
actually,
baby.
No, that's me.
When it comes, when it comes to being humble, it's all me, baby. Come on.
No, it's me. That's me.
Must be me
No,
from Japan.
no, it's Lakeisha.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Obviously, guys, I will say nothing. Apart
You
from
guys
saying
are
that
too
you're all
kind.
brilliant.
It's me.
Okay.
So now that I heard Kai's voice, for those who missed, we meet twice a day and for a few hours each time because we're addicted. I know we're a support group. So you can see our schedule by clicking on the title of the room and see the schedule of not only tech news around the world, but all of what we call the deep dive rooms where shit gets really crazy. And we have the ability to go as deep as we need to on some of these issues around AI and VR and medtech and fintech and edtech. And following this room, in about 2.5 hours from now, we go right into the edtech deep dive room. The medtech deep dive room. Yep, for a couple hours, and then into the edtech deep dive room. So we've got a whole 7 hours of content back to back. So we're going to go from here to the medtech deep dive for a couple hours, and then to the edtech deep dive for a couple hours. And most of the people on this stage are the co-moderators of each of those rooms, which is fantastic. And kudos to Carl.
It's like a full-time job now.
Yeah.
Always in a row.
Yeah. But we love it. It's just what it is. And
yes.
Anyway, so now that Kai's here on stage, I just wanted to recap where we left off in the previous room because it was quite interesting, and we're able to take advantage of the fact that Kai knows China better than most of the folks here in Clubhouse. Especially the mainlanders who are banned from Clubhouse. But and that's a real shame because that would be fantastic if mainlanders were able to join in Clubhouse. But Kai lives in the UK, so he's able to join us in Clubhouse. But what we were talking about when we ended the previous room is about this really big headline that came out of Bloomberg, which is why China is cracking down on ed tech firms. And it has to do with, it's a global, there's much more to this headline than you would assume, because it's a truly interesting moment that we find ourselves in mid-June 2021. And what I mean is big tech, and you have America big tech and you have China big tech. And it's the biggest tech companies in the world are both in the US and in China. And they're somewhat equally tremendously huge. And Europe will get there, and India likely will too. And we were discussing about who's likely to join the pantheon of the top 5 American big tech companies, and it looks like Stripe will likely be the next very big tech company. Shopify might join in the U.S. ranks of the super big tech companies. China's got equally a handful of incredibly ginormous, unimaginably big tech companies, which China started this, and it all sort of started about 2.5 months ago with the IPO of what's called Ant Financial. Ant Financial is sort of the sister company of Alibaba. They have all of its fintech stuff. It's one of the 2 most popular payment systems in China through their app called Alipay, which is so wildly popular in China that it's spread all throughout Southeast Asia. And even in Thailand, it's accepted, just to give you some context as to how popular it is. And they were set up to do the largest IPO in IPO history. No exaggeration. And all of a sudden, it got shut down by the Chinese government, which was rather confusing. And we now know why. Because in the meantime, in the weeks following, China has released its own digital currency called, the central bank digital currency of China, which, by the way, there was a headline today that they are now making good progress with that, as China is known to do. They do things very fast, and they are making really good progress. So they're now using it for paying salaries in China. So it looks like that's going to continue to unfold in a very rapid way. And it clearly, Ant Financial or Alipay, as one of the 2 main ways that people in China pay for things, and that big IPO certainly was of the concern and attention of the Chinese government, because they had their own ambitions around their own digital currency. And similarly, while that IPO was shut down, the Jack Ma, started laying low, and that's another new headline that we're seeing lately. That not only Jack Ma, but now many of China's tech industry folks are laying low to keep their head down, there are similar phrases in Japan and in Sweden about just keeping your head down and not rocking the boat. And
kick back and lay back.
Yeah, lay back, kick back, lay back. So, chill out, as we say in SoCal.
It was actually in a headline today. Actually, Joe, the executive chairman of Alibaba, he was interviewed on CNBC, and he says it's a headline I've just tweeted. He's laying low right now. I talk to him every day. He's actually doing very, very well. He's taken up painting as a hobby. It's actually pretty good. So
it's all gravy, baby. He's chilling out. Yeah. Eating some fish tacos in a hammock, living the good life. So
he's coming back.
Yep. So, but the big picture continues, because my point is that China was the first to start cracking down on their big tech companies, because in the follow up after Alibaba's shelved IPO, we started seeing headlines that Tencent and Huawei and all of the big tech companies were now going to be paying very big fines for their kind of monopolistic use of their data, et cetera, et cetera. And it was very efficient, and they had 15 days to comply, and it was very serious business. It was a big crackdown. Now, today, in the past 5 days, we now saw last week, Thursday, Friday, we saw headlines that the U.S. now has 5 bills to start cracking down on the American big tech companies. Very similar to what China did 2 months ago. And they're cracking down. Those bills will be coming out. We now know what those bills say. And the content of those bills makes it very clear that the whole intent is to rein in the power of America's big tech companies, Google, Facebook.
It's like
Amazon.
They're drunk on power or something.
I think that's an accurate assessment, because they've mastered the art of using data, collecting data, and the AIs that can use that data in amazing ways. And they have an almost unfair advantage in anyone they compete with who doesn't know how to use data in similar ways. It's like using, it's like playing chess against, the world's best computer. It's, the AIs have the advantage these days. So my point is, the big tech in America and in China both took over the media markets. And as we saw, Amazon just bought MGM Studios and Netflix. Everything you do now in terms of media consumption is on these big tech platforms like Netflix and Disney Plus and Apple Go and etc. And so now that they've taken over media, they have their sights set clearly on health tech. And we've seen the headlines in the past 2 weeks that both Amazon and Google are going headstrong into health tech. And before you know it, if left unchecked, they will take over the medical industry in the US, and they will have everybody's medical data because they've got all the hardware that they themselves create with their watches and their sensors and their headbands and their rings and all that stuff. And it gives them, again, an unfair advantage in, taking over the medical industry. So it doesn't stop there, because they also have ambitions to get into education tech, as they particularly were in China. And that's where the governments start getting really, understandably and rightfully, concerned that these huge tech giants, armed with their AIs and their masterful use of collecting and dealing with data, would essentially, if left unchecked, you now have your citizens with all of their health in the arms of big tech, all of their education in the hands of big tech, and they're in the process of taking over every small mom and pop shop retail. By the way, Amazon's taking over retail. That's going into big tech. And whatever left is of retail, the mom and pop shops, the cake shops and flower shops and shoe shops, are now also in the next couple weeks going to move over to tech in the form of what we call social commerce, where the headlines all came out in the last week. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, on and on, are now going to allow your aunt and uncle to put their little cake shop on Instagram. And they're going to be, your aunt and uncle are going to sell far more cakes through their little Instagram store than they ever did through their little shop on, Mulberry Street. So when these big tech companies take over all of the mom and pop shops, just as Amazon took over all the warehouses, now business is in the hands of big tech and medical and the medical industry and the education. And now you can understand why governments are rightfully concerned, because then they will no longer be able to have much control over these big tech companies if they control all the medical data, education data, et cetera, let alone the infrastructure, because simultaneous to this, they are also laying the actual physical pipes and satellites now. Amazon and Starlink and SpaceX, Tesla, are providing the satellite coverage of internet. Simultaneously, Google and Facebook are laying the international fiber connectors that are taking over disproportionate amounts of the internet connectivity. So again, what are you going to do as a government once all that plays out? Give it 2 years. That's all it would take for your nightmares to unfold. And now big tech, you think big tech's running the show now? Oh boy, give it fast forward 16 months. And they've got all of your med tech data and education data, and they got the satellites up, and they're providing all the internet. And they decide, oh, you don't like us? Okay, no internet for you. No more medical for your citizens. No more education for your citizens. Good luck fighting that. So now back to the Chinese headline that broke today. China's cracking down on education tech firms. Damn right they are. And it's because they understand the power of data more than the U.S. does, honestly, because they're kind of more engineering minded, unless kind of they come from, their leadership comes from a more engineering background than a legal background like is common in the U.S. So it's super interesting to watch, as I say, here in mid-June 2021, that it's not a coincidence, is it? When you understand the big picture, why simultaneously the US, the UK, now Japan, all within a week, all decide they're all going to crack down on big tech.
Tyler, can I just add to that?
Yeah.
So in terms of them having medical data and healthcare data, forgive me for saying this, but I know you agree, but it might offend certain people. They already had it. They had access to it. Before, they had to steal it and had to take it for free. Now, what's going to happen is through these devices, such as the ones that are coming out, where they can get data from AR devices or virtual healthcare devices and so on and so forth, and everything that we've been seeing in headlines. we and companies are going to be paying them to take our data. So that's kind of the dichotomy of this. Before they were stealing it, now we're paying them to take it.
Yeah.
And just to bring a real quick fine point, the U.S. tech bills that were introduced for antitrust, normally, folks, you can have a bill introduced by somebody like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or Josh Hawley that is very partisan and it's going nowhere. But on the contrary, what you had happen here, and this is the news behind the news behind the news that everybody needs to pay attention to, especially if you're in the tech world, especially if you don't think the U.S. government is serious about this shit. David Cicilline, a congressman from Rhode Island, he's rather liberal. He's from my part of the woods. He's what Republicans would characterize a coastal elite. He was on these bills with Ken Buck, Republican from Colorado, who the liberals would characterize as, a gun-toting, America-loving, farming Tea Party member. And these two could not be more polar opposites on the way that they view the world, on the way that they view politics, hell, on the way that they view President Donald Trump. But what has happened here in an era of extreme polarization, so politicians don't benefit from working together in this climate, these two have come together and they've put their name on the same antitrust bills. And what that signifies is it's better to be against big tech than it is to be against the other party. And number two, throughout the ideological spectrum here in the United States, they're identifying the same problems and the same solutions. So this is the slow march to progress and legislative and new law, basically, Tyler.
Well, so here's a headline that broke kind of while we were discussing this. You think I'm joking? I'm not. This literally just broke. And I'm tweeting this out from the Tech News Twitter account so you can read it your damn self, which you can find at TNATW, which if you are a clever little chipmunk, you realize those are the first letters of tech news around the world. And I know that's a truly wild coincidence. TNATW is the Twitter account. And look at the title of the room, Tech News Around the World. It's the same first letters. Don't ask me how that happened. We're not sure. We're investigating. People are on the case, but we'll get back to you when we figure out how that happened. But
there's a few times in my life when my mind has been blown. This is one of them.
Yeah, me too. So get ready to have your mind blown yet again, Michael, because look at this headline I just tweeted from the Twitter account. UK competition watchdog investigating Apple and Google smartphone platform duopoly.
Wow.
Today, the UK's competition watchdog, the Competition and Markets Authority, announced an official investigation into the mobile device ecosystem, citing Apple and Google's effective duopoly. The group will investigate dominance of iOS and Android on the control they wield over App Store and Google Play Store and Safari and Chrome. In March, the CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority, already announced a specific investigation into whether Apple's App Store terms are unfairly favoring itself. And now they're like, fuck it. Well, let's go big. Bring out the big guns. Let's take these suckers down. They're coming for our kids, y'all. So the headline again, UK competition watchdog investigating Apple and Google smartphone platform duopoly. They're certainly raising the stakes. And it's interesting to see, just by reading the text of that, it's exactly right. Back in March, the Competition Market Authority, UK's watchdog, was contemplating looking into whether Apple's App Store terms were unfairly favoring itself. And boy, has shit escalated since March, because now they feel the need. They didn't even bother finishing that investigation. They're not even, because that wouldn't actually slow down Apple's march to taking over your entire life. Apple would happily settle with whatever the outcome of that investigation would have been. Oh, gee, did we do something wrong again? Oh, no, another fine? Oh, no. What are you going to do? Fine us another $300 million that we made, in the 20 minutes it took us to drive to the courthouse? Oh, please, no, anything but that. Anything but that. UK watchdog, please. You're taking away our parking money. So, they've escalated things, and they're now going to realize this shit's for real, y'all. This is not small-time potato stuff, because they're coming. They're coming in a way that they can take you out as a government, because, hey, Ireland, how much are you for sale, by the way? Ireland, you're looking pretty cute over there. You want to sell? You interested in a wholesale? How about we just buy that Emerald Island of yours and park ourselves right next to the UK? because we used to put our companies there because he gave us a little tax break. But how about $1 trillion? How's that sound, Ireland? We could change the name to Googleistan, Facebookistan. What sounds good to you? Well, and that's when it's going to get really interesting. And I have to, again, this sounds absurd, but by the way, they're trying to land on Mars. If you want to talk about the conversations going on at these companies, so the idea of buying Googleistan or Facebookistan or Netflixistan or whatever you want, tech utopia. I just wonder something along those lines is going to shake out, but maybe it doesn't. You got El Salvador going big into Bitcoin, and my God, that's a whole other facet of how tech is getting into the geopolitical sphere. And we could rant for another hour on this wild, truly bizarre Bitcoinification of South America, because Cuba says they're up for it. Mexico's got one of their Congress members trying to push it through, Nicaragua, and now Costa Rica. As May just tweeted in when the room opened that our personal friend of mine and Fraz, who's joined us now twice in this room, and says, quote unquote, this is his room. Tech News Around the World. Mr. Brock Pierce says he's going down to meet again with the ambassador of El Salvador, who has just legally approved Bitcoin as their secondary currency, as a legal tender. And that could start a domino effect of the South American countries all joining together to start trading with each other in Bitcoin. And then things get really wild very quickly. And what is or isn't Jack Dorsey's role in all of this as the founder of Twitter, who has said recently he plans to take Twitter into decentralized Twitterland, making it run on the blockchain decentralized, which would mean no one could take down any tweets ever. And when Putin tells him to take something off of Twitter, Jack can go tell him to go stick it where the sun don't shine. And he's not talking about Siberia. He's talking.
Tyler, I want to take just a couple of seconds for this audience to kind of land what you've just said about how connected this room is and this club is. And I'm not. This is not just PR. And it's going to get even more connected. So Brooke Pierce, research him, right? I didn't know much about him until I was hanging out here. Research him on Bitcoin, the influence presidential candidate, right? And brought into this room, invited by Faraz once. Tyler knows him from way back. Comes in here I guess about a month and a half ago, right? Randomly comes in here right in the middle of a breaking story, shares something, gets on a plane. Really, completely surprised everyone.
What was that story? That was a really interesting moment that he popped in the first time.
I was just 2 seconds trying to recall that actually, because it was quite intense when he came in.
I think it was
Kieran talking about him and his scandal.
Cheryl. It was just a discussion between me and Cheryl. It was just a discussion between me and Kieran about something that had been said about him, and hence I brought him in. That's
right.
All it was.
That's right.
That's all it was.
That's right.
And then he comes back again into our room and literally says, "This is my club," and he's heading off to El Salvador to meet the officials. He's literally getting on a plane to go there. So
yeah, but he's already.
That news story was breaking. Sorry.
He meets with a lot of South American political figures. We're friends on Facebook and have been since Facebook started in 2007 because we've known each other that long. But he has a lot of his photos set to private for understandable reasons. But he's meeting with these, high level politicians in South America about because he really was one of the driving forces behind the Puerto Rico thing, and that's where we need to bring Mr. Justin Higgins back in, because Justin also worked with the American government involvement in Puerto Rico, and he can essentially confirm that the Bitcoin community initially had ambitions to make Puerto Rico their sort of crypto utopia, and Brock played a significant role in that as well. Pause for effect.
I think Justin's busy.
That's okay.
What basically happened was in Latin America many years ago when the crypto movement started, Brock and some of the early guys were the first ones down there talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock for years has been the keynote speaker down there, along with a number of other guys, including a bunch of them that you know, Tyler.
Yeah.
And in Puerto Rico, he was one of the first guys that moved down there.
Yep.
And then a whole bunch of them went down there, and then there's
Yep.
been major events down there ever since, with the governor coming, etc. You know about all of this, and
Yeah.
of course Justin being an advisor. I think Justin's an advisor to the governor of Puerto Rico. I'm not sure. They had a mutual acquaintance there when they got together. I think that was it.
It was something like that, yeah. And anyway, so it's not a surprise that Brock's meeting with, you know, the South American leadership right now, because, and this is my point, and people think it's hyperbolic to use the words I'm using right now, but it is a distinct possibility that Brock and Jack Dorsey, who are both really trying to make Bitcoin happen in a big way, and they understand that in the developed world of, you know, the EU, and you read the headline came out today that the head of the Bank of England is saying, you know, crypto is, we need to really tightly regulate this thing, and, you know, you need to be willing to lose all your money as a sort of soft warning that they could potentially prohibit the trading and holding of Bitcoin, etc. But in places like South America and in Africa, they perceive it totally differently. Nigeria is the third largest trader of Bitcoins by volume. They're actually using it, right? And South America has always had a kind of complex relationship with the U.S., especially with regard to trade, and they could adopt it and start functioning together in a way where they kind of minimize their dependence on the dollar and use the Bitcoin to trade with each other between Cuba and Venezuela, which, by the way, they trade oil with their South American brothers down there. And that could get really interesting really quickly, like real quickly, because if you start getting countries trading with each other in Bitcoin, watch the fuck out. That's where the dominoes start falling really fast. And that's why Brock, and perhaps, I have to be careful, but it appears there's reports that Jack Dorsey is going down there to talk with the Costa Ricans as well. And because he's building the software and now apparently hardware to enable it. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Cash App that is part of Jack's company, Square, is a digital wallet, and more importantly, a crypto wallet. And Jack also hinted at the Bitcoin conference just a few days ago, which Amay was at, that he has ambitions to make a hardware wallet. And the hardware wallet speaks to, again, sort of a decentralized approach to all of this, which would be truly, truly disruptive. And one other really interesting anecdotal observation was that when Jack was on stage at that event in Miami, Bitcoin 2021, the largest Bitcoin event that has ever been held, he jumped on stage in a tie-dye t-shirt and a flowing gray Gandalf-like beard from Lord of the Rings, and had this incredible, remarkable peace and love and, you know, so let's stick it to the man kind of vibe. And he almost seemed like to embody a mix of Jesus and Satoshi Nakamoto all rolled up into one. So he is assuming the role of the crypto messiah, and this is where it's truly wild, folks. Just hold on to your seats. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Put your tray in the upright position.
Tyler,
yes. Go ahead, Amay.
I remembered the company that Jack invested in, and the company he invested in and you backed, and they're talking on the Twitter channels, was Lightning Labs, and they're focusing on the Lightning Network for Bitcoin, which is the faster transactions and cheaper transactions. Yeah. So I would not be surprised that Jack and Brock team have some surprises for us this summer. Yeah,
it's going to be super interesting to watch, and just in the next few days. If another South American country, if Costa Rica, I gotta say this. If Costa Rica comes out as saying they're pro crypto or pro Bitcoin in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, buy Bitcoin.
Tyler, they already accept crypto in Costa Rica. They already accept Bitcoin.
I didn't know
There's
that.
a whole bunch of yogis over there. Oh my God, they totally accept it.
I'm just saying if the government comes out like in the same way that.
That's something that I would be safe to say that you're probably going to, I think you're going to win that bet on that one.
That's what I'm saying. And if that happens, it could be, and they start trading with their neighbors and right next door to them in El Salvador, by the way. And then Nicaragua gets in, as they've been saying, that could start the domino effect of South America adopting Bitcoin wholesale, whole hog, and then watch out what happens when countries start trading with each other in Bitcoin, because that's the sign that Satoshi Nakamoto was looking for. That's the holy cow moment. And that could send Bitcoin from 40,000 where it is today to 400,000 overnight. So watch out for that. So anyway,
Tyler,
yeah,
there was something that had to do with, I guess, politics and crypto, which is interesting to see who from BlackRock went over to the Biden administration, and I tweeted that with some sort of sneaky eyes, suspicious eyes, because there is someone from BlackRock that was spending 3 years at BlackRock, and he went to work for the Biden administration. So it's going to be very interesting to see what other institutions will start to plummet in, because that will be something that will be, at that point, inevitable, right? Because at that point, then the big institutions, and I also tweeted out because my yogi's husband is Paul Tudor Jones in Connecticut, and he's been super, super bullish on Bitcoin and he actually did an interview, I think, with Squawkbox about just the simple math of Bitcoin, and I really encourage everyone to go watch it, because for those that want the Yip and Yannicka sort of explanation, he's from the South, he's from Tennessee, so he really did it really, really clear, and it's really setting a little bit of a wave in the space, because you have some large hedge funds like Ray Dalio and Paul Tudor Jones that are really bullish on the understanding of it. So I'd like to inspire people and encourage them to go check that out.
Okay. So just kind of moving on to other topics here, kind of switching gears so we can cover some of the other stuff. There's the biggest story in the tech sphere at the moment that's got the most coverage by the most publications and influential tweeters is a story from the New York Times, which says that they have interviewed with about 200 people. It says interviews with about 200 people show how Amazon's warehouse employment system, under strain before the pandemic, burned through workers and created huge confusion. And the Insider.com headline is very similar. They're covering a similar story, and it says Amazon burns through workers so quickly that executives are worried they'll run out of people to employ, according to a new report. The TechWire says the Amazon that customers don't see what's really going on behind the scenes at Amazon. So I'm going to tweet out these articles because I'm interested to see what this is really all about, because it's always an interesting coincidence when multiple publications all kind of come together on something. And it causes it's good hygiene, kind of news as a news consumer. It's good hygiene to wonder, why is this publication writing this article now, and why are other publications also writing similar articles now? But the one from Business Insider says that Amazon burns through hourly employees. According to a major New York Times investigation, employee churn is so high that some Amazon execs are reportedly worried about running out of people. The company has been on a hiring spree in order to keep up with increased pandemic shopping. And no doubt it's been growing very quickly. Amazon has been hiring hundreds of thousands of workers for roles in its warehouses, which it calls fulfillment centers. But those employees have been quitting almost as fast as they can be hired, according to a huge report from the New York Times. Of over 350,000 new workers it hired between July and October. July, August, September, October. 4 months, 350,000 people. That's about 100,000 people a month. The report said many only stayed with the company just days or weeks. Hourly employees had a turnover rate of approximately 150% every year. Data reviewed by the Times demonstrated reportedly leading some Amazon executives to worry about running out of hireable employees in the U.S. Well, that is convenient then that we read that headline yesterday that Amazon has 4 new robots called Bert and Ernie, and what was the frog in Sesame Street? Somebody help me out here, Michael. Kermit, yeah, was another one of the robots.
Amazon, they're going to have to move to robots if that's how they're getting through people.
Yeah, Amazon went on an extended hiring spree through 2020 as it attempted to keep up with the massive spike in demand during the coronavirus lockdowns as Americans increasingly turned to Amazon for everything from toiletries to groceries. The company repeatedly touted major hiring pushes. By May 2021, last month or so, Amazon was even offering $1,000 signing bonuses to their new employees, which, by the way, they call industrial athletes. And that so makes sense that they get a signing bonus as industrial athletes, right? Partially a symptom of hiring issues employers are facing in a variety of industries, but potentially also a result of Amazon's remarkably high turnover rate. One former Amazon manager who oversaw human resources efforts focused on warehouse workers compared the situation with worker churn at Amazon warehouses to ongoing use of fossil fuels. We keep using them even though we know we're slowly cooking ourselves, he told the Times. Wow, that's a quote. Amazon representatives didn't respond to a request for comments as of the publishing. We keep using them even though we know we're slowly cooking ourselves. Holy Jesus, that's a quote. But it does explain the Amazon boxes, does it not? A headline that we covered, it was revealed that Amazon within these...
Tyler, they're going to fix it all.
Here we go. This is my favorite topic.
The Amazon box. Let's all take a moment and take a pause and jump into the Amazon box together, shall we? It was revealed about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Amazon had started using little phone booth-like boxes in their fulfillment centers, which they affectionately referred to as the Amazon, like the chill out room. Get it? That's where the Amazon employees can lay low, by the way. You think the Chinese have cornered the market on laying low? Hell no. Amazon wants to get in on that game. So they made the Amazon box so their employees could chill out too. And they jump into their little phone booth and they Amazon out. And but now we know why, because turnover was so high. They're doing whatever they can to keep those people from quitting, and the Amazon box
keep them
now
for one
makes
more
perfect
day.
sense. Yeah,
keep them for one more
The
day.
only thing missing are the sock beatings. Basically, like it's like 400 degrees in the warehouse, and you decide you're going to go into the Amazon for 45 minutes while your buddies are, breaking their backs as industrial athletes.
I'm just telling you right now. I mean, why?
Oh, that's right, industrial athletes. That was a whole theme.
Well, which, by the way, is genius because it's all about setting expectations. And why not just take that idea just 2 steps further and open the Amazon gym? And it's like CrossFit, but you're shipping shit. You know what I mean? It's like, how many boxes can you lift, bro? Come on, bro.
Amazon Olympics.
The Amazon Olympics.
Do you even ship, bro?
One more
Do you even ship,
One more box. One more box. Yeah. And get paid to lift.
We could run this story.
So if Amazon were Snowpiercer, they would be finding something for them to do inside the Amazon box.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be helping the company.
Now, hear me out here, guys. As an Amazon Prime member, you also get a free membership to their new gyms, and the weights are deceptively designed as boxes. And you got to lift that shit, bro.
It's an experience. You're selling an experience, Tyler. Ever since you told us about Starbucks, it's all about experience.
It's all about delighting the customer. And free gym? Come on now. That's a perk. I mean, Netflix ain't offering that. Which, by the way,
a real reality version of industrial athlete's life, a day in the life of an industrial athlete through what Amazon calls real reality.
Bro, sign me up, bro. Where's the cash? Let me ring the cash register on that one. Sign me up. Free gym? Or you going to pay me to work out? Hold on a second, boss. You're going to pay me to work out? Hello. Let's make some money, y'all.
You've really screwed up the Amazon sponsorship now. What the F am I? What are we supposed to do with that? Huh?
Sorry.
Take those calls. Yeah.
Yes. I guess I can delete those emails.
Nate for you had like a whole bit about this for movers. Like he wanted to start a company where you pay people pay membership to be a mover because you're lifting stuff like the new CrossFit.
I'm in on it. He Nate, as usual, was ahead of the times. I did mention Netflix briefly, and there are a new headline today that Netflix on their job site, some sneaky little bastard, was taking a look at Netflix's open job positions, and they are hiring for podcast producers, game producers, and people to manage their growing content factory of games and podcasts and all kinds of other cool shit. And that's an interesting insight. And that's my new favorite way of figuring out what these companies are up to, is by having investigative journalists kind of camping out on their future job postings, because we just, to that vein, we realized that Shopify is hiring faster than Amazon is. Shopify is hiring more engineers than Amazon is for warehouse employees at this point. And that's all I need to know to stock up on some of that sweet, sweet Shopify goodness. And my God, that just went up about 6% yesterday, because it was revealed that Shopify is now a major shareholder of Stripe. And what the hell is Stripe? Well, I'm glad you asked, my friend. That's probably the next big tech company in America, because they made a huge headline themselves yesterday. But honestly, they were poised to up and be the next big American tech giant, just because they had figured out how to make it dead simple for any website to add just one little line of code to their website to make it perfectly painlessly simple for everybody on that website to receive credit cards, including Clubhouse. And the tip jar in Clubhouse is powered by Stripe. And how
I was going to add simple but secure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The key is the security, because anyone can add payments to any website. The problem is 99.99999% of the time, you're going to fuck it up. And the Russian hackers are going to be all up in your ass, stealing all that juicy money. And that's why you need Stripe, because they figured out how to do it right with kind of banking level compliance. So that apps like Clubhouse can and did about a month or so ago, integrated with Stripe. Only takes a few minutes. You just plug that code right into your get your engineers to add that line of code into your code base, and next thing you know, all your users can accept payments. And that's what they did. That's what, by the way, the tip jar in both Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces is both powered by Stripes. But by the way, nearly anywhere you go on the internet at this point, all of the credit card payments that is all done by Stripe. And that's why Stripe is quickly becoming one of the biggest tech companies in the US. It is, in fact, hold on, Cheryl. Don't interrupt. Cheryl, please stop. It's also why I'm in the middle of a sentence. So it's also why Stripe is now, in fact, the world's largest fintech company. And now that Ant Financial's IPO was kind of shelved by the CCP, Stripe is, in fact, the world's largest fintech company. And the important bit is, yesterday, 24 hours ago, they just announced they've added a whole new, incredible, remarkable new feature. And they add new features all the time, but this one that they added yesterday is a humdinger of a new feature. What is it, you might ask? Well, it's called identity verification. And what is that exactly? Well, one of the other big problems that Clubhouse and Twitter and every other website on the internet has is verifying the users on that site. And why is that such a big deal? Well, because if you've ever been on Twitter, you probably argued with an idiot who was hiding their identity. And if Twitter could, and believe me, they wish they could, identify everybody on their site like they do in Korea, because by law in Korea, the regulation is, if you have a website, you have to be able to track back every user to their social security number. America has not made that a regulation yet, but I bet you they will in the not so distant future. And when they do, every website on the goddamn internet is going to be beating down Stripe's door to plug in their new feature of verifying identities, including Clubhouse, including Facebook can probably do it themselves. Twitter is going to probably use Stripe, and everybody's going to need this. So it's going to watch out for when that happens, because even without the US regulation on forcing people to do it, countless websites need it anyways. What was your point, Cheryl?
Their valuation is about 100 billion now.
Right, for Stripe, yeah. And growing at about $1 billion every week. Yeah. Cal?
Oh, I was just clapping.
Yeah. So that's part of what's going on this week in some of the big tech. Other things happening. I got, and I could go on for 4 hours. There's so much crazy shit happening this week, but I'll pause to see if anyone on stage has anything they want to popcorn jump in with.
Yeah. So I just tweeted this out, but
okay.
Apple was granted a patent for a VR headset with a motorized adjustable mechanism. And it has a sort of like a visual model of how that would look like. opposed to the Oculus one where you have to adjust it by hand. They have like sort of like this mechanism where it does it on its own on the very back. It's pretty cool. Check it out.
I got it, JT. I just tweeted it out to our ever-growing list of fantastic, genius, and I dare say beautiful Twitter followers. We're now up to 2,706. And you can go to the Tech News Twitter account and see this tweet that JT just shared about Apple's new patent for a VR headset with a motorized adjustable mechanism. And I'm trying to get a sense by looking at this exactly what it's doing. JT, help me understand what this is all about.
Yeah, so it's a motorized mechanism. Essentially, it's automatically adjusting to your head by some inputs and outputs on the actual device rather than using your physical hands. Opposed
That's
like using the Oculus Quest.
Very clever indeed. Now, why is this interesting? Again, there's much more than meets the eyes. So take a look at the Twitter account, which is TNATW, which miraculously and mysteriously are the first letters of tech news around the world. It's truly mysterious. We're not sure how this happened.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know. Hold the phone, y'all. The Twitter account for tech news around the world is TNATW, the first letters of the title of the room. It's wild. Anyway, looking at the Twitter account and JT's tweet that I just retweeted, it's already up to 4 retweets and 5 likes. Let's keep it going. And you notice that Apple has filed a patent for this really cool VR headset with a motorized adjustable mechanism. Now, why is that interesting? Well, hold the phone, folks. Apple doesn't have a VR headset. Why the hell are they filing patents for a VR headset with a motorized adjustable mechanism when they don't have a VR headset out yet? Well, I'm glad you asked, my friends. It's because Apple very much has been working on a VR headset for a very long time, and they're about to announce it, and it will actually be announced September 9th or 10th, as they've done every year for their big iPhone reveal party, as they notoriously do around September 7, 8, 9, 10. And this year, they're going to announce a barn burner of a VR headset, which is expected to be a VR AR, which is augmented reality, virtual reality, augmented reality. And what's the difference? I'm glad you asked. Augmented reality is you see the outside world and there's stuff laid on top of it. So you're walking through your house and now things are coming out of the walls and out of the floor as you walk through your house or office or a city. As you're walking down the street, you see new stuff that you never saw before. It's overlaid on top of the existing world. Virtual reality, you're inside the matrix and it's a whole new world. You don't see any of the outside world. Those two devices can be one in the same if there's a camera on the outside of the headset that allows you to kind of look out as the camera to create what they call mixed reality. Now you can have both kind of simultaneously. And it's truly wild. And that's what is expected from Apple. Of course, it's a little bit of rumors at the moment, but when they keep filing for patents like this, and they've done quite a few, and this is not the first Apple VR patent that JT has shared with us in recent days, it's very clear that this is in the works and coming down the pipeline rather sooner than later. And it will be amazing when it does. Boy, I can't wait to get my hands on that one. So thank you for that, JT. And you'll notice when JT tweeted that in, now we're up to 9 retweets and 13 likes on that tweet. And that's how it works, folks, because now we're up to 2,711 followers. And the way it works is you can share a tweet too, and I can retweet it. All you got to do is include our Twitter account as part of your tweet. So I can retweet it with one little click of the retweet button. And that's the magic of tech news around the world. Anyone can share an article.
What's the Twitter account?
Huh? Oh,
what's the...
Yeah, funny you ask. It's, believe it or not, it's TNATW, and get this. Look at the title of the room and look at the first letter of each word. It's TNATW. Tech news around the world.
Right.
It's crazy.
Tyler.
Yes.
It was from yesterday. Did we cover the Netflix Spotify series that they're going to work on?
Did you say Spotify?
Yeah. Netflix is producing a fictionalized series about the Spotify story.
Do tell.
It's in, I've just tweeted it, ironically, to TNATW.
That's how we do it. By the way, that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically they're doing a 6-part series, which is already listed on Netflix, like their upcoming section. Weirdly, it's going to be a fictionalized version of the story. I don't really know which parts of it are going to be fictionalized, given that it's a real-life company. Why not just do the actual story? But I think the most important part is like the time when it's coming out is this whole, the Spotify, Apple, Amazon content battle. And then we're going to get this sort of inside story, this, even if it's fictionalized story, about one of the players in that battle, which could swing public opinion one way or the other, about Spotify.
What was the show last year? The something like King something that everyone hated. I didn't watch it, but they've seen how they could polarize the world really quickly.
Tiger King.
Was it Tiger King? I know that was something they did. I'm not sure that's the one that
So
Chris
Carl,
is.
I just retweeted your tweet about the Netflix Spotify thing. So now everyone can see it who follows the Tech News Twitter account. And I have to say, those 2,700 people are perhaps the most intelligent and beautiful Twitter followers in all of Twitter. And I'm not just saying that. We have actual reports to back up this theory. And by the way, you probably are noticing, if you're new to this room, you're looking on stage and you're thinking, God damn, that's a bunch of beautiful people. And I know what you mean. And they're not only
they're thinking, God damn.
They're thinking, God,
especially Tyler's shiny bald head.
They're thinking,
exactly what they're thinking.
God damn, that's a beautiful bunch of bald heads up there on stage, and what a brilliant bunch of beautiful, successful people. And you're right, they are, and I'm proud to be with them, and you can too. And it's very simple. You just join the Tech News Club by clicking on the title. Join the Tech News Club, and you too can be successful, beautiful, happy, fulfilled, and make your mama proud. And we hope that you do. And it's a beautiful thing. So about this article, Carl.
Yeah, just quickly, I just want to highlight what the key sentence there is when. So it actually goes back to a book from 2019, but they were saying that it's.
Which
the
hang on now. The Spotify book that came out in 2019 was written by one of my very dear friends, Jonas and Fenn Carlson. Which, by the way, they asked me for quotes in the book, because they know I've had interactions with Daniel, and they were hoping that I might drop some juicy insider stories for part of their book. And then they asked me, and I said I politely declined, and they said, well, do you know anyone else who is a mutual friend who might be willing to spill some juicy background stories for our book that we're writing, which their boss, they are tech journalists at a publication called DI Digital, which this article doesn't mention. And so they were writing their story. Then they decided to write a book, and the same publisher of the magazine is also the publisher of the book. If I remember correctly, they might have got a different publisher for the book. But anyways, now that there's this apparent Netflix series, and I do remember Jonas saying on his Facebook account, my God, it was a few months ago, I don't know, 6 months ago, that they did get this deal for this Netflix thing. And so what I'm going to do, I don't follow Jonas, although I'm almost certain he follows me here in Clubhouse. Let me see if I can ping him in here to tell us about this Netflix series, although Daniel will be a little not so happy about this. But let's see if we can get Jonas in here to tell us about this Netflix series. Let me ping him on Facebook Messenger and just send him a link to this room, because he's not in Clubhouse, apparently. Hold on one second. Somebody can stall for me while I try and ping him.
I'm happy to fill the void. For anyone who hasn't read the book, it goes into quite into depth about the activities between Spotify and Apple in the early days, and the tactics that Apple and Steve Jobs sort of employed. So, one aspect of this series is going to be highlighting the details in the book, but if it's fictionalized as well, they can put their little twist on it. They can represent Steve Jobs in any which way that Netflix want to represent them, and really sway
Who's going to play Daniel Elk?
Daniel Elk
would actually play.
Oh, funny you say you're not the 100th person to make that thing. I've actually been at events with Daniel in Stockholm where we're both at the event, and there's journalists there trying to stalk him to ask him questions, and they come up to me thinking I'm Daniel Ek and ask me questions about the future of Spotify, and he and I have this funny little thing between us where I actually answer their questions as if I'm Daniel Ek, but I'm not. So that when they take the quote and they go back and they say Daniel Ek did this, and then it wasn't Daniel Ek who said this, it actually embarrasses them. You see what I'm saying?
Twins.
Yeah.
Twins.
Anyway. I'm telling Jonas right now, he was active on Facebook 7 minutes ago. We're talking about your book. Want to join in?
I would just like to say, throw in my hat for actors playing anyone. Can we get Chris Hemsworth? That's all I want to say. Thank you.
So he saw
Chris Hemsworth as Jobs.
That Chris Hemsworth is Tyler before he skipped a day, right?
Yeah.
So he sees my message on Messenger, but he hasn't responded. So let's see. If you keep an eye out for Jonas popping into the room here in the next minute or two, because I'm using Club Deck, it makes it a little tricky to see who pops in. And his first name is Jonas, last name is impossible. Leon Hoofdwood. Let's see. Anyway, we'll give him a minute. Hopefully he'll jump in and tell us about the book and the Netflix series and all that. So keep an eye out for someone named Jonas with a very long last name that starts with the letter L. And then thank you for that article, Carl. Yeah?
It's already here, Tyler.
Oh, are you here,
He's
Jonas? Ray, is he in the room? Let me try and invite him on stage. Hey, Jonas, we're just talking about your book and the Netflix thing. There he is. Bada boom. Welcome to Tech News Around the World, Jonas.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. I only have a few minutes.
Okay.
I wasn't prepared.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. How's the book selling?
I haven't got any figures from the States. I think it's doing it's done okay and it's pretty good in Sweden. It's sold to over a dozen countries, so
Nice.
Japan, South Korea, Russia. But I think it's kind of a niche book. It's not like a bestseller mainstream.
It's about to become less niche.
It's about to become a Netflix series, I hear. So here's what's happening. Here at Tech News Around the World, we meet every day and share headlines from around the world. And somebody shared a headline from The Verge, which you no doubt saw, and probably shared with all of our mutual friends on Facebook, I am assuming. But the headline, as you no doubt know, is Netflix is producing a fictionalized series about Spotify inspired by the book Spotify Untold. And when Carl on stage shared the headline, I said, wait a minute. I know somebody who wrote a book about Spotify. I wonder if it's the same book. And sure enough, it is. And here you are.
It is.
Yeah. So can you just give us a little background?
In English, it's called the Spotify Play.
Yeah.
The book was we called it Spotify Untold as an English title, but it never actually had that title. It's called Spotify from the Inside in Swedish, and then it's called Play in the U.S. and the English language version. For your English fans is the latest version, so it's pretty much the best version of the book, I'd say. So get a hold of the Spotify Play on Diversion Books, and with the Netflix stuff, it's sort of we're not going to be saying a lot about that as authors. We have not participated in writing the manuscript or anything, so we're not part of that process, and that's pretty much what I have to say about that. You know, it's a Norwegian director, and I don't know if they've announced the writer yet, but they've announced some of the stars, and that's pretty interesting to see the lineup. And it seems like they're focusing on the early days. So I'm just looking at this from the outside. And we're journalists still, and we're still covering Spotify. So I think that it's important for that team that things are separate, and we want to respect that process and so on. So, as you can tell, I'm being careful here.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it seems that it seems like they're focusing on years, and that will be interesting. And the book catalogs the Spotify people mainly, and also mentions a little bit of the SoundCloud founders that are Swedish, and some of the guys involved in building Beats Music that became Apple Music are Swedish too, and they're all part of the same.
Am I the only one losing?
And also the Pirate Bay is. I think it's going to be focusing on that era when piracy was huge in Sweden, and
that's cool.
and a lot of peer-to-peer technology was sort of being developed here. So
that's right.
So it'll be interesting to see.
It is, because that's an interesting part of the Spotify story that most people aren't aware of. That Daniel did Peak Torrent at the same time that Nicholas Enstrom was doing Kazaa, at the same time that the Pirate Bay was doing P2P sharing, at the same time that all of that P2P file sharing and Napster stuff was going on. And then Nicholas Enstrom left Kazaa to do Skype, which is based on P2P data sharing as well. And Daniel left to do Spotify, and Skype became a massive success. And then Spotify became a massive success. And these guys who were doing these P2P file sharing apps like Napster went on to become massive successes, with the notable exception. And by the way, Travis from Uber also had one of those companies. Jesus, which one was his? My name's my brain is freezing. Anyway, but so Travis went on to do Uber, Nicholas went on to do Skype, Daniel went on to do Spotify. Everyone left their P2P music MP3 sharing apps, which all became illegal essentially. And the Pirate Bay was the only one who stuck to their guns and said, "Nah, fuck it, we're gonna stay and do this, even though you're gonna try and send us to jail." And by the way, they did go to jail. And I remember it's a really interesting moment. So that'll be fun to watch, fun content. And I realize you got to bounce, but thank you for jumping in here. And I did mention, are you still, what else are you, what's keeping you busy other than the book at the moment?
I'm on parental leave, so I have my
you
little,
Swedes. Don't rub it in. All you Swedes on your 6-month parental leave.
15 months, hiding it, open the carton, and so I'm sort of out of the loop in a lot of ways, but I'll be back at the Doggers Industry in the fall.
Okay, well, look forward to that, and maybe we'll do an event together in the fall. That would be fun. Actually, I have some. I'll ping you separately because there's something cool that we absolutely should do together in the fall.
All right, sweet.
Okay, good to see you. Thanks for popping in.
Thanks for inviting me in, and have a good
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
So he brought up the really interesting point, which was the Spotify before the Spotify, which is, as a lot of people don't know, and he was trying to allude to, that Beats Music was also started out of Stockholm, and they inspired to be, and Apple bought it to make their competitor of Spotify. And it was our buddy Ola who did Beats Music. And by the way, so was Tidal. And so all of this P2P file sharing apps and these new other alternatives of Spotify like Tidal and Beats were all born out of Stockholm. And most Americans don't know that. But that's why I say, like, a lot of American culture, especially music tech culture and video games, about half the video games you play are made out of either Stockholm or Helsinki, by the way. So it's
Tyler.
Yes.
I just wanted to make one comment as well. I find that interesting. He mentioned SoundCloud because it's serious. We invested like over 75, some huge amount of millions of dollars in SoundCloud. So if Spotify, if that's going to be in that series, that's going to be kind of interesting because that's kind of, I think, a bit in our realm. So that kind of sparked my attention on that piece.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of SoundCloud. Alex and Eric are two Swedes from Stockholm who left Stockholm and moved down to Berlin to build SoundCloud. And at the very end, they were trying to sell SoundCloud to Spotify, and they ended up not doing that deal, although that was never reported anywhere. But, or I don't think any journalists ever knew that happened. Did I just leak that? Sorry about that. But I still use SoundCloud to this day. It's easily it's on the front page of my phone. I adore SoundCloud. Anywho, moving on. It'll be interesting to see what this Netflix series is like, and what I'll do is when I talk to Jonas offline, I'll figure out how much money he got from these Netflix series. It'll be let's see. And I was going to ask him if Spotify ever made a comment about this book that he wrote, but I know that they didn't, and and it'll be interesting to see if they ever make a comment about this Netflix series. But I'm very sure they will not. And it's very interesting that Netflix and Spotify themselves are sort of not direct competitors yet today, but no doubt will be in the near future if Spotify starts doing video. And you can imagine, in fact, Joe Rogan's podcast is done in video on Spotify, and that paves the baby steps road to Spotify competing with Netflix. And they did hire one of the heads of YouTube to come over to be in the a very senior person at Spotify. That's just a hint, hint, wink, wink. And Netflix is, as we mentioned about 30 minutes ago, hiring for podcast producers. Well, gee golly willikers, folks, it looks like those two are going to hit head on. And so maybe it's not a coincidence that Netflix is doing this series about Spotify that no doubt the Spotify founders are not so happy about. It's fun, the way these tech companies play together. But other headlines anyone on the stage would like to share before I go into some of the other big headlines floating around the internet?
Ooh, I had one from the Philippines, if that's okay.
Go for it, Harry.
So my headline, I tweeted it maybe like 30 minutes ago. Let me find it. Basically, J&T Express, which is like a big shipping company, founded by I'm blanking on his name, but they're based in I want to say Singapore. They operate in Indonesia, and in the Philippines. Basically, a lot of Southeast Asian countries. They're kind of Chinese. Anyways, Independence Day in the Philippines was on June 12th, and there were a lot of people who were buying these T-shirts that said "Ating ang Pinas," which means the Philippines is ours, basically. That's like a rough translation. And then a couple days later, J&T Express, according to this tweet that I saw, denies shipping services for the Atin ang Pinas shirts and posters, saying that their company policy does not allow propaganda to be delivered. So yeah, a lot of small mom and pop shops and like local brands use it to ship their merchandise, and they just denied one of these shirts that were being sold on Independence Day, literally just saying the Philippines is ours, because it's apparently propaganda, and I find that to be extremely disturbing.
I'm trying to follow here. Can you? I'm a little bit slow myself, kind of like my friend Dave. Can you give it to me one more time?
Yeah. Back up.
Let's slow this down.
One more time.
One more time.
Slowly.
Yeah.
So J&T, it's a Southeast Asian shipping company.
Yes.
But I think they're kind of associated.
J&T. Yes.
J&T Express. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. They're very big shipping service in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
They're like worth 545 million
USD
it's like, as of 2017.
It's like FedEx of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, kind of. It's like one of those, because there's like a bunch.
Yeah.
And they're kind of tangentially connected to China.
Yes.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Anyways, Independence Day in the Philippines was on June 12th. And a lot of mom and pop shops send their material, merchandise, and ship it through J&T.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the shirts that was getting traction was this Ating ang Pinas shirt, which means the Philippines is ours. And it's a hashtag on Philippine Twitter space. And like that, and China Layas, which means China go away from the West Philippine Sea. But anyways, based on that, so people made merch around the Ating ang Pinas shirt to celebrate Independence Day. Couple days after Independence Day, J&T, according to this headline, I need to verify it first, some more, but basically they said J&T, days after Independence Day, denies shipping services for these shirts, saying that their company policy does not allow propaganda to be delivered.
Oh boy. Boy, this is interesting. Okay, so I think I got it now with my low IQ. So
no, high IQ.
Okay, but well, I'm speaking on Dave's behalf. So what's happening here is the Filipinos are celebrating Independence Day, and as part of Independence Day, they're going to wear special shirts. And these shirts say the Philippines are ours, meaning we as the Filipinos, it's our country, right? Independence Day. And the problem is they were shipping these to each other with a Chinese shipping company, right? Long story short. And then the shipping company realizes, you're sending out shirts that say the Philippines is ours to each other on Independence Day. And then they didn't like that. And so the shipping company says, you can't ship those shirts with that message because it's in some way propaganda. Am I following, Harry?
Yep. That's a great summary. You did it better than I did.
Okay, so that is very interesting, because there was a headline that just broke, but since we started this program, an hour or two ago, that China sends 28 warplanes near Taiwan in year's largest exercise. China's Air Force just sent 28 aircraft close to Taiwan, the largest this year, further ratcheting up military pressure on the government in Taipei as it seeks to strengthen ties with the U.S. The 28 People's Liberation Army aircraft, including 14 J-16s and 6 J-11 fighters, were detected in Taiwan's airspace on Tuesday, June 15th. That's today, y'all, because it's already evening here in Asia. Taiwan's defense ministry said in a statement, Taipei's military sent protocol aircraft, issued radio warnings, and deployed air defense missile systems to monitor the activity. Chinese military aircraft have frequently entered the Taiwanese airspace over the past year as the People's Liberation Army has steadily picked up military activity around this, and Washington and Beijing have been issuing warnings to each other regarding Taiwan since President Joe Biden took office in January, adding to the tensions that increasing steadily during the Trump administration. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory, yada, yada, yada. So this is concerning indeed that a Chinese shipping company isn't shipping within the Philippines shirts between Filipinos to celebrate their independence that say the Philippines are ours. And this is, of course, in some sense, the narrative is related to the fact that the South China Sea, there's a lot of tension between all of the islands in the South China Sea and Vietnam. Vietnam and the Philippines, notably, actually kind of ramped up their kind of military capabilities recently as a result of these types of headlines that we just read that broke today about a continued escalation on behalf of the Chinese PLA, People Liberation Army, in their exercises into Taiwanese airspace and naval exercises into Philippine waters and Vietnam waters, which they claim is theirs. And we're all back at this old game again, are we? So, but this is a new development. This Chinese shipping company refusing to ship products that they object to the slogans on a T-shirt. That's kind of unprecedented. Yeah, wild. Thank you for that's just one of those local shares, that Harry's sharing from the Philippines that story will never get to the U.S. or probably Europe, but it's interesting to keep an eye on. So thank you for sharing what's going on there. And I guess we should ping in our friends from the Philippines to get an update there. And we're long overdue to get an update from Myanmar as well. So next headline that somebody shares, I'll ping those folks in and get those updates. But I'm tweeting out the article about the 28 warplanes, the breaking story about the 28 Chinese warplanes going into Taiwanese airspace and just happening. Other stories people want to share at the moment?
Can I share the story? I don't know if you talked already about it.
Go ahead,
about
Milos.
Tesla Model S plate. New technology for the battery and powertrain, which it makes the fastest, most safest, and best computer on the wheels.
The best. They're calling the Tesla S Plaid, which was just had their big launch party. They're calling it the best computer on wheels.
Not only best computers on the wheels.
Wow,
the fastest car.
These engineers, man, they really know how to drop a punchline. Huh? It's like wow, some serious comedy coming out of Tesla.
It's the fastest car in the world.
Yep.
It goes 0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds.
Yes.
Fastest production
car in the world. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you are right.
Also the safest production car in the world. And to combine both of those is quite a remarkable engineering feat, is it not?
Yes. And the most interesting feature is this new motor. Which goes on one speed up to 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And 20,000...
Without changing gears, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so for anyone who wants to dive deep into that, watch the Tesla Model S Plaid live stream video on Tesla's website, or go over to YouTube and watch it. It's well worth your time, because this new Tesla Model S Plaid is absolutely an engineering breakthrough in the future of cars. Is it not, Milos?
Yes, and for me, it's the central piece of that is the battery and powertrain, and
Yes.
including this new motor, which they had to line this rotor of this motor with the carbon, because it has more than 20,000 of RPMs, MPRs, whatever is the name of the turning the motor. So basically, they had to make special machine how to line this rotor of the motor in order to be able to achieve it.
Yep. And they highlight that as part of that live stream video. They kind of showcase the new motor, and they had to build a whole new infrastructure to build that motor. It's quite an engineering feat in itself. Yep. Thank you for that.
And new battery power pack.
Yes.
Which obviously you know that's my focus.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want...
Milos, you're in battery, right?
That's
EV
right.
battery?
Yeah.
Oh, we have an article from Foxconn today regarding battery material.
Go ahead.
Foxconn unit invests $36 million in Giga Solar partnership to develop EV battery materials. As we all know, Foxconn is the main supplier of Apple. So they have invested in this company because, they need to develop this EV battery because of the more orders of EV manufacturing. So I've already tweeted. I'm not sure Tyler can see it. I can do it again if you want.
Let me see.
All those. Can I answer a little bit, Cheryl?
Yeah.
Yes.
All those new materials are important, and but until it doesn't go to commercialization, it's only research, and there are plenty of them. So. Everybody is trying to catch Tesla. Tesla is now has the second generation lithium-ion battery, which is much better than the first generation, which we are using up to now.
Cool.
And there are new technologies, but those technologies are they can come on the market like in 5 years or 10 years or never.
I did prototype work for Tesla like back in 2008, 2009. I'm a CNC machinist. I cut metal with basically a robot. And I was like asking myself, like a boss, what the hell are these guys doing? What the hell are these guys doing with all of these, e-cigarette batteries? Like, what are they doing? Why wouldn't you make your own cell? But it all makes sense now. They went for the cheapest battery they could find. They got that product market fit, the market adoption. And once they raised the cash, they just started making their own stuff. It's I have this love-hate with Elon, but sometimes when he does these engineering things, I definitely applaud him, because most engineers or most companies would just defer to whatever the other ecosystem offers. And in a lot of the avenues, Tesla and SpaceX, they're just inventing their own technology when no one else makes it. And that's pretty rad.
Yeah. Speaking of rad, here's a couple of interesting headlines here. And engineering and innovation. And thank you to Katerina for sharing this one. I just tweeted it out, or retweeted Katerina's tweet. Genetically engineered microbes convert waste plastic into something called vanillin. Scientists in the UK have genetically engineered E. coli to transform plastic waste into something called vanillin. Instead of simply recycling plastic waste into more plastic, what our system demonstrates for the first time is that you can use plastic as a feedstock for microbial cells and transform it into something with higher value and more industrial utility, says Stephen Wallace from the University of Edinburgh. The biotransformation isn't just replacing a current chemical process, it's actually achieving something that can't be done using modern synthetic methods. PET bottle, plastic polyethylene terephthalate, which is PET bottles, plastic bottles, is one of the most widely used types of plastic. Most existing recycling technologies degrade PET into its substituent monomers, ethylene glycol and terephthalic acid, then repurpose them into second-generation plastic materials. The research duo has genetic engineering to create a strain of E. coli that converts the PET bottles into vanillin. Vanillin is the molecule responsible for the characteristic smell and taste of vanilla. Oh, wow. It is used in food and cosmetics and is an industrially important platform chemical. Traditionally, it is extracted from the vanilla plant. but global demand far outweighs supply from natural sources. So now we get our vanilla from plastic bottles, y'all. Well done, Team Earth. There we go.
Next time you have your vanilla ice cream. Wow.
Yeah. And
you did well on that one, Tyler. That was a lot of biomedical science stuff. Well done, man.
Yeah, that's a lot of tongue twisting bio-ease. Another really interesting development, this one coming from you, Dave, that I just retweeted. You want to take this one about NLP?
You go for it. You did it well, man.
I'll do it. Let's do it. So, pretty much everyone knows about GPT-3. And if you don't, that's okay, folks. That's why we're here. We got your back. Just follow the Tech News Club. You'll be smarter and more beautiful and make your mama proud. Just click on the title of the room. Follow the club. Your IQ will go up. Your weight will go down. You might even grow a few inches. And if you're really lucky, your hair could grow back. So your results may vary. But about this story, GPT-3 is this truly remarkable innovation by a team called OpenAI, instigated by one gentleman named Elon Musk, something like that. A really weird name, this guy. Elon, has anyone heard of him? Elon Musk. Strange name. Anyway, so Elon and the guy, Sam, over there, did OpenAI. They made this thing called GPT-3, which basically you can play with on the web. You put in any kind of text and say, hey, GPT-3, write me a poem about crocodiles, and it will. And it'll write you a really interesting poem about crocodiles. And you can say, hey, GPT-3, write me a book synopsis of Moby Dick. And it does. And it does it better than most college students can do. And they've tested that. And what I just said is an actual fact. And so high school students no longer need to write book reports because they can just tell GPT-3, hey, GPT-3, write me a book report for, any Steinbeck novel that your English teacher is forcing you to read. So when the mockingbird sings, you get the idea. So when, or I know why the caged bird sing, anyway. So GPT-3 is truly remarkable, but what this headline is about is the fact that GPT-3 is so powerful, and China, by the way, about 2 weeks ago said they've just come out with something that is, of course, better than GPT-3. But these AI technologies, artificial intelligence technologies, are very, very powerful and will continue to improve. And there very soon will be GPT-4, which will be more intelligent than most of the people in this room combined. And that's where it gets a little crazy, does it not? Nonetheless, it's going to happen. Mark my words. So the artificial intelligence community understands how concerning this is, because AI is not going to get more intelligent in the same linear way that us stupid meat puppet humans do. It's going to get intelligent exponentially, and it will become 1,000 times more intelligent, in the time that it takes us to become double intelligent, because that's computers do things exponentially, not linearly, and they're not biological, right? So when GPT-4 comes out, and then GPT-5 and 6, and we start taking orders from GPT-3. Before that happens, the artificial intelligent engineers have decided, you know what, we need to make an open source kind of competitor to this that doesn't belong to any company, that is sort of public domain. And everyone has access to the inner workings of this thing. And this new open source team is called Eleuther AI, and they claim a new NLP model, a neuro-linguistic programming model that approaches GPT-3 level performance. And that's truly remarkable that an open source project is now achieving similar results to GPT-3. AI-powered language systems have transformed potential, particularly in the enterprise. They're already being used to drive chatbots, translate natural language into structured query language, create artificial application layouts and spreadsheets, and improve the accuracy of web search results. OpenAI's GPT-3, which may be the best-known AI text generator, is currently used in more than 300 apps by tens of thousands of developers and producing 4.5 billion words per day. As business interests in AI rises, advisory firm Mordor Intelligence forecasts that the natural language processing market will more than triple in revenue by 2025. And here's the quote. We think it's probably fair to say this is currently the best open source auto-regressive language model you can get by pretty wide margin, according to one of the founders. And DPTJ is what's known as a transformer model, and then it gets very geeky from there. So if you want to get down and dirty and geeky with that article, you can do that. Just look for the tweet that Dave tweeted in, and I retweeted to the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW, which are, by the way, just magically, coincidentally, the first letters of tech news around the world. Go ahead and look at the title.
It's so wonderful. We go full tech.
We went full geek, everybody. We went full geek.
This is going to be the really interesting bit of this for me, Tyler, is to see the impact that this is going to have on the likes of an AWS, because Amazon are making a truckload at the moment on spinning up bots, doing speech to text, text to speech, all of the kind of corpus of knowledge, rather slicing out like millions of calls across like big global companies by like screwing in AWS. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whenever this rolls out, to see the effect on the revenues and to see the uptake of this type of like open source thing in the market. I think that's going to be the one to watch.
I think, Dave, it's going to be good. It's going to have an effect, but I think a large amount of the attraction for AWS is the interconnectivity between all of their servers, and they'll still retain that interconnectivity, that ability to build that backend for whatever application or service you're developing in a secure sort of way. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Very interesting. Amazon brings its cashierless tech to a full-size grocery store for the first time in a new 25,000 square foot Amazon Fresh location in Seattle. Here it comes, everybody. Hold on to your pants. Amazon, as you know, is a big tech company. They sell stuff on the internet. You may have bought a thing or two from them. And Amazon bought a supermarket company called Whole Foods, which happens to be my favorite supermarket chain. And that was interesting in and of itself. And they also have something called Amazon Go, which are these tiny little kind of like convenience stores. But unlike any convenience store, you walk in, there's no staff, and you walk out with whatever you want. And it automatically charges your your credit card or payment system or whatever. And they know what you took from the store because the store is full of cameras, everybody. Welcome to the future. They know your face. They tie your face to your payment system. They know everything that you took from the shelf because that's how good the cameras are these days. Just to give you a little dystopian hint as to how much what the smart cities of the future will be able to know about you as you walk around. Anyways, the headline today is Amazon. It now has a full-sized proper supermarket in Seattle, which is where their headquarters is, and that's a really interesting new development. They've grown from the little kiosks, kind of 7-Eleven size stores, and it says Amazon's new physical grocery stores opening in Seattle area this week is unique as it will feature the company's just walk out cashierless technology. It's the first time the tech has come to a full-size store and marks a milestone for Amazon given the cost and complexity of implementing such a system. I will continue to read it, but you can read along at the Tech News Twitter account where I'm now tweeting out this article, and you can see a photo of inside of the store. It's the inside of a supermarket, like a really big American supermarket, and it shows a lady walking straight out the front door with her basket full of stuff without any cashiers stopping her along the way. Amazon on Thursday will open, that's 2 days from now, 25,000 square foot Amazon Fresh location in the Factoria neighborhood of Bellevue, Washington. Amazon Fresh stores are designed to be similar to traditional full-service grocery stores, but with some additional technology, including smart grocery carts and Amazon Echo devices that help shoppers navigate the aisles. So you can say, where is the peanut butter? And it will show you exactly how to get to the peanut butter. And my God, we did it again, folks. Jesus, this is 2 breakthrough innovations in the same hour. First, we got bacteria eating plastic and turning it into vanilla, and now we know how to find the peanut butter. Yep.
Can somebody give a reason why this won't be absolutely huge. Like, to me, this is like the beginning of the next phase of like seriously grocery delivery and Amazon. Can anybody
I
like
can't.
give counter to that?
I can give a little bit of 2 cents. Just that the shoplifting apparatus that exists in society is very good at it, and I think there's going to be ways to circumvent cameras. You know, I'm just being very kind of honest. Like as a kid, I stole stuff all the time. You know, but I'm going to go to jail. Damn it.
I don't think so. I'll to Carl's point, I don't see a reason why this isn't going to be big because the whole shrinkage or shoplifting, they tested that out, right? That's what they were playing around with the smaller stores. And I know it's going to be harder with the bigger stores, but they've really worked that through. And then there's
Oh,
an X percentage, whatever that X is, that they assume is going to happen, right? I mean, it's just built into the business model, right?
It's
In
tiny
grocery,
compared to their
right?
profit.
Yeah, it is.
Tiny.
Exactly.
so check this
Tiny
out, y'all.
percentage.
Check this out. Well, guess what? It's going to get a little bigger because not only are they cashierless supermarkets, they are also Amazon product return centers. Well done, Amazon. Wow.
Tyler,
Yeah.
so we have similar technology in Thailand already.
Yes, we do.
So when you're in Bangkok, I'll take you to Siam Discovery, which is part of the Siam group.
Yep.
And there is a store called Ecotopia that you make your purchases via QR code.
Yep. Looks like your mic cut out there, Lakeisha. But
I think it's going to be huge, Tyler.
I think
I think
also the next step.
in
Oh,
a
sorry, go ahead.
cashless society, especially after the pandemic, I think people don't want to touch money. That they're going online to buy stuff. I think it's going to be enormous for this.
Yeah.
The potential is just incredible.
I'm with you. And let's see. There's the ability to return Amazon products to these stores. I love that as well. Next thing you know, they might add in a Genius Bar and a Geek Geek Squad type thing. Would they not, Cal?
Yeah, I mean they've got the Whole Foods platform too, right?
Right.
So Tyler, don't forget
And
they
those
can
all
actually
become
scale.
medical
They have
centers too.
multiple ways to scale, right?
Oh,
That's
pharmacies.
what Amazon do. They'll and so that's that they could do the return model once they figure it out,
Dave,
right?
attention.
In every grocery store.
Attention, Dave. I feel a soliloquy coming on here. So get ready, folks. Grab a chair, sit down, get comfortable.
I mean, the med tech talk is, that they are, probably going to be the biggest name in diagnostics because they're going to have access to so many people on a daily basis through their delivery system, right? So they could easily come pick up your blood labs and process them that evening and put them on Amazon or whatever, and then if they have stores where you could physically walk in and have a care clinic and they're sniping doctors and healthcare groups. I mean,
but Chris,
this is why they're so into it.
Unlike any normal health clinic, these doctors are going to know what the fuck you've been shoving in your filthy mouth for the past 9 months. And they're going to say, cut back on those fucking double overstuffed cookies.
On those peanut butter.
Cut back on the peanut butter bars, baby. That's what's driving your cholesterol through the roof. Let's take a look at your receipts here from the supermarket. Oh, boy.
Nick so slick.
What? Everything we're talking about, wasn't this in the scene Idiocracy, where people were going to the store, being serviced, getting their health care done, and all that stuff in the movie Idiocracy?
Yes, and now you realize just how prophetic of a movie that was.
Prophetic. Yeah,
I don't know how it is.
that out
I
there.
don't know how it is over in the US, but in the UK, it's quite a common occurrence to have opticians centers inside stores as well.
Yes, it is.
Is that the same over there?
It was common in the 80s and 90s. I don't know why that went away, but
I got my vaccine at Target.
In the US,
Welcome to
is it not
Walmart.
like an oligopoly? Is it not like an oligopoly of like two companies in the US? I think that the optical industry.
Since Tyler always dive into this with the big data companies and where they are pushing us, one of the things here with this shop, somebody brought up this with shoplifting. One of the things here that we can actually already now monitor, or rather some countries already do, is to look at how people gate, how they look around. Be advised, these ones recognize your face. If you're a known shoplifter, you will get
Johan, ixnay on the hang on. Don't let him in on the secrets, Johan.
I
don't think
I have stocks in this.
I don't think the shoplifting's a pain point, but I don't see why this is such a big technology leap. I mean, most people I think the next leap is going to be either, first of all, Kroger or anybody else can do this, but people pretty much do self-checkout anyway. The next stage would, first of all, half the shoppers you see in there, if you even go, are people shopping for Instacart. So their shops are already, redesigned for that. I mean, if anything, I would think the next step would be just automatically, like they do more in Europe, automatically packaging everything. You don't even go in, and you just order what you want, and it's like it comes off of a treadmill, and that's what I would think Amazon would want to do. This is just kind of like a little, slightly less extra friction on the checkout
There's a
side.
segment
Tyler,
that
can I come?
there is a segment. Oh, just sorry. Go ahead.
Monica, welcome back.
Monica.
Tyler, in India, Amazon has already created fulfillment centers actually at merchant pop stores, mom and pop stores, specifically for pickups to be arranged directly from the locations. And these merchants actually get paid a very small amount of money because it helps them reduce their delivery cost. So
Love
this
it.
is something that they had pioneered back after, I think, about 3 to 4 years ago. This is not new. And second thing is what somebody else was saying, which you shushed, but that technology is pretty much real. And in fact, I just saw one startup just today do that exact same thing, where you are able to actually recognize not only with the face but also with the action whether the person is shoplifting, whether the person is pulling a chain, whether the person is trying to do something which can be considered criminal activity, and therefore is even able to alert a police system at the back end. And this is all happening in literally real time with actual events that get generated. So the technology is real and it's already there. And the self checkout.
Yeah. Tyler,
Yes,
have
sir.
you ever been banned from a casino?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I
they know.
I was arrested in Las Vegas once with Jared Leto, if you want to hear that story.
Yes.
Of course you
Yes,
would.
please.
Jesus
Yes,
Christ,
Oh,
man.
please,
Of
come
course, we want to hear
on.
that story.
My
Of
God.
course, we want to hear.
Juicy,
You
juicy,
are the
juicy
equivalent of
story.
Tom Jones over in the UK.
Okay,
It's
here
a
we
running
go.
joke.
I'm going to share the story.
Of course.
You might want to. I'll let me try and ping Jared in. He's not going to want to tell the story. This story's never been shared. We're on Chatham House rules, everybody. No tweeting this story. Let me just see if I'm going to ping him. Well, he won't come in, especially when he knows what I'm about to do. Okay, so here's the story. So Jared has a band called 30 Seconds to Mars. It's quite a popular band in the U.S. When 30 Seconds to Mars was just starting, I mean, rehearsing, and it's his brother Shannon plays drums. My buddy Soren was playing guitar, and we decided to go on tour in a little shitty motorhome. And the first gig was Santa Barbara. We're in LA. And the first gig is in Santa Barbara. The only two people in the entire audience in the Santa Barbara, the first show they ever played, is 30 Seconds to Mars, which, by the way, they play huge arenas around the world now. Like, they go down South America, they're playing 50,000, 100,000 seat arenas, soccer stadiums. And when we played the very first gig, it was in Santa Barbara. The only two people in the audience was my aunt and my cousin, because they live in Santa Barbara. And then we go from Santa Barbara to Santa Cruz, where Soren, the guitar player, hooked up with some local girl that night. That's a whole different story. And then we went over to Las Vegas, and we're walking down the strip in Las Vegas because the show's later that day, that evening. And we arrived early because it's not that far of a drive from Santa Cruz. And we're just strolling down the strip, the Las Vegas Boulevard. And he has stickers for the band, 30 Seconds to Mars. Okay, now, again, no tweeting, no nothing, because he doesn't want this story public. It's never been shared before. And we're just cruising along. Again, his brother Shannon's the drummer, who's about a whole block ahead of us. We're just walking at a kind of different paces. He and I are kind of walking shoulder to shoulder. We're strolling along, and he's putting up stickers on the telephone poles for 30 Seconds to Mars, because it's a brand new band. No one's heard of it yet. And that's what bands do when they're starting out. And by the way, I believe he's an angel investor in Clubhouse, by the way. Anyway, long story short, all of a sudden I turn around and two bicycle cops in bright yellow and black, Las Vegas police officers on bicycles, have pulled him over, and he's sitting on the curb with his feet in the street. And I turned around and they see me turn around and they can tell we're together. And they're like, are you guys together? And my first response was, what do you mean together? And they said, get over here. And so I walked back over and they put handcuffs on me and sit me down next to the curb next to him. And Jared,
Tyler, that's brilliant.
Well, we're just getting started. So he said the police, well, first Jared whispers to me so that the police don't hear. And by the way, for the record, Jared is ridiculously intelligent, like wildly high IQ, which most people aren't aware of that. And he whispers to me, I'm memorizing everything they're saying, which actors know. Actors have an unusually good ability to memorize things. And so he says, I'm memorizing everything they're saying because we might need this later when the lawyers get involved because they're arresting us for, it's a bullshit thing they're doing here. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're just chilling. I didn't do anything wrong, so I got nothing to worry about. And somebody asked me if I'd ever been kicked out of a Las Vegas casino, which is why I'm sharing the story. And the police asked me, have you ever been to jail before? And I say, have I ever been to jail before? Jail before. Oh, yeah, I've been to jail before. And they're like, oh, okay, right. Mm-hmm. And show me your ID. And they asked Jared for his ID. They run the IDs. They come back and they say, I thought you said you've been to jail before. I said, yes, sir, I have. He said, okay, yeah, where? Because they just checked the database. And the database says I've never been to jail before. And I grew up on the border of Mexico in San Diego. And I said, I've been to jail in Tijuana. Which, by the way, you never had a proper childhood if you didn't go to jail in Tijuana growing up in San Diego. So they go, okay, sure. Okay, it's not in the database because it's a different country. And then they realize they have nothing on us, really, or me anyway. So they give me my ID and they say, you're free to go. And Jared's like, yeah, well, what about me? And they're like, no, you're not going anywhere. We got the patrol cars coming for you. And at this point, a whole bunch of fans start gathering around being like, is that Jared Leto? And you can imagine how fast the crowd swells as people walking down Las Vegas Boulevard, right in front of all these casinos. We were right near the Paris casino, by the way, and sitting on the curb in front of the Paris casino, and this crowd's gathering. Is that Jared Leto? Is that Jared Leto? Is that Jared Leto? And he's trying to hide his face with his hair because his hands are handcuffed behind his back. And while the police van is coming for him, they tell me, you're free to go. You got to get out of here. And I said, no, I'm just watching my buddy here, making sure everything's okay. And they tell him, they say, how old are you, man? And he doesn't want to answer because he's smart. You don't say anything to the police if you know how the law works. And they look at his ID again. And at that time, he was 30 something. And they say, 35 years old, putting stickers up on telephone poles. You're going to go real far in life, my friend. As they say to Jared, as he's engaged to Cameron Diaz at the time. And I start cracking up. I'm laughing hysterically because the police bicycle man is telling Jared he's going to go real far in life for putting stickers on telephone poles in his mid-30s. Because he thinks it's just a random 35-year-old putting stickers up on telephone poles, and he just arrested Jared Leto, and he had no idea. And as he puts the Jared in the back of the van, all of a sudden, all the kids are storming with their cameras to try and capture this. And the cops are like, what the hell's going on? Because they had no idea that they're arresting, kind of a celebrity. And they shut the van. He goes off. I catch up with his brother. 4 hours later, he comes out. He gets bailed out, and he joins us for dinner and tells us the story of sitting in the jail cell and everything else, and made it a point to say, we got to make sure this story never gets out. And here I am telling everybody here in Clubhouse. So there you go. That's I got arrested with Jared Leto's story in Las Vegas.
We'll protect
you listeners better shape up, not tweet that out.
Yep.
Shape up.
Now
Make
you
sure
need
you
to tell
cut
us
it.
what happened in Tijuana, because I'm being a Swede. I have never heard of that one.
No, I don't think that story's ever been told, by the way. But by the way, that's one story. That's one stop on the tour. There's a story for every stop on that tour. That was a wild tour. So, moving on.
Tyler.
Yes.
Tyler, I just test the Illutor.ai application that they've submitted, and it's really, really nice. And I just made a test, so with the model on GitHub, and it's a GPT 6B. And then I just test like, okay, Tyler Crowley arrested with Jared Leto in Vegas. And this is what the system wrote. Today, December 13, 1993, Tyler gets arrested in Las Vegas by LAPD. And Jared Leto plays James Dean in that film, by the way. So it continues like this. So it's really, 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 really good what you submit.
And Jean-Francois would be the perfect person to test this stuff because he's been doing it for over a decade. And is easily the most informed person on this topic and all, not only Clubhouse, but probably social media. So click on Jean-Francois' profile. Yep, and you will see that he has his own product in the market, and which is very compelling indeed. So thank you for the insider perspective on that, Jean-Francois.
Thanks.
Yeah, and also, by the way, it was Jonas on stage. Johan Fisher, who made the point about the shoplifting, in which Monica confirmed cameras can now tell by the way you can be identified by your gait, meaning the way that you walk. So it doesn't matter if you have a mask on, and this was proven out in Hong Kong because many Hong Kongers protesters were arrested even though they had full headgear on and masks on and everything else because they were identified by the way they walk as well. And if you click on Johan's profile, you'll understand why he's has a lot of expertise in that particular area. So yeah, it's going to be very.
Yeah, we actually have a firm here in Gothenburg, a startup. It's not a startup anymore. I don't remember the name, but what they actually do is that they surveillance building sites for suspicious activities, like people peeking into doors and windows and containers and looking for tools and grabbing things that is out of the scheme of what actually should happen on the workplace. And that's a huge thing for them, and they did raise a boatload of money 2 or 3 years ago. Again, the name eludes me, but it will come back. You are done speaking.
There's a guy on YouTube who releases feeds of gas station surveillance footage, and he narrates what shoplifters do. And after like hundreds of videos, the behavior, he memifies some of the shoplifting behavior. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So somebody named Sharok just shared an interesting article from CNN about the doctor who resigned over the FDA decision that was super egregious relating to this new Alzheimer's, this very controversial drug treatment for Alzheimer's. And it's a CNN article, so I will tweet that from the Tech News Twitter account. It says, doctor says that the FDA decision was so egregious that he resigned. CNN speaks with Dr. Joel Perlmutter about his decision to resign from an FDA panel over the agency's approval of the controversial drug to treat Alzheimer's. And that certainly seemed the case. People were kind of surprised that this drug had passed because it's quite a remarkable. And by the way, that I recall when it was passed just a few days ago that the stock price for that company gained 30% in a day or something like that. So thank you for that share. Sylvan just shared one about the latest ransom scandals. Yeah, Sylvan, you want to do that one from Forbes?
Yes, I think this is a very interesting additional item to the whole Bitcoin narrative about how Bitcoin is used for crypto crime. But this one is quite interesting because of the use of Bitcoin for money laundering, particularly Russian and Chinese money. So, and Tyler, I suppose you can take it away.
Okay, so I got it right here. It says, Dark Tech, latest ransom scandals highlight crypto's role as money laundering play, which is a controversial topic that would these ransomwares be happening at the same pace without Bitcoin? The Colonial Pipeline ransom was paid in Monero, an untraceable cryptocurrency designed for full privacy of transactions. Most of it we got back, according to the Department of Justice. Then JBS, the world's largest meat packer, was held hostage. As that story unfolds, Russians are often considered the boogeymen behind it all. No one knows for sure whether the hackers are government-directed or not. Although, if that's found out to be true, shit's going to get real, y'all. And by the way, Joe Biden's meeting with Big Daddy Vladdy in Geneva tomorrow. So you can imagine the tension that's going on there, because there was a headline in the past 24 hours that here it is, G7 leaders ask Russia to hunt down ransomware gangs within its borders. The G7 group of leaders, the 7 largest democracy leaders of the world, have asked Russia to urgently disrupt ransomware gangs believed to be operating within its borders following a stream of attacks targeting organizations from critical sectors worldwide. The G7 member states also expressed their commitment to work together to address the escalating and immediate ransomware threat as a global challenge. And here's the quote: "We call on all states to, but particularly Russia, to urgently identify and disrupt ransomware criminal networks operating from within their borders and hold those networks accountable for their outcomes." The G7 leaders are UK, US, Canada, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, plus the EU. Now, so you can imagine how much fun Uncle Joe, and Big Daddy Vladdy are going to have in Switzerland tomorrow. But to this point, it's assumed that these are not necessarily direct Kremlin actors, although my probability detector tells me there might be a little connection there. And if that turns out to be true, oh boy, now you've got the beginnings of the evolution from a cold to a lukewarm tech war of sorts. Because the outcomes of these hacks, of shutting down meat production and distribution and energy production and distribution, is equivalent to letting off bombs, is it not? Stopping critical infrastructure. So
the Forbes article is interesting.
Yeah, it says, I'm keep going here. Okay. So it says cryptocurrency, blockchain projects soliciting investor capital, and even some traditional tech startups investigating are becoming ways in which the wealthy are trying to take money out of places like Russia and China. That's obviously been mathematically proven. Because of this, China's government warned in May that it intended to curb Bitcoin trading and mining. Some government officials believe that Bitcoin or some other mainline cryptocurrency will just replace government-backed fiat. Then there is their perennial issue of China not wanting its locals to take money out of the country. As it is dealing with a strong yuan and trying to keep it from going to low into the sixes and maybe even the sub-6. China's Vice Premier Liu He said they need to crack down on Bitcoin mining and trading to resolutely prevent the transmission of individual risks. The latest tech bull run is often compared to the dot-com boom of the early 90s. Crypto is twice that, often being a dud market for about 2 years. Bitcoin went from 9,500 in May to 60,000 this year, and it's now back to 40,000. One Russian source, who did not want to be quoted on the record, said some investors buy into crypto project knowing it is going to launch a token. They buy into these private placements, which in some cases are used to boost the startup's value. And it's a very lengthy article. Is there a particular paragraph you wanted to share, Sylvan? It's no doubt it goes very deep. This is a very, very long article. So.
While you figure that paragraph out, Liu He is very important in China because he went to school with Xi Jinping, and he is generally viewed as one of the more powerful and closest advisors to President Xi. So for him to say this, it's basically like it's coming from God's mouth to our ears. And the other thing that I'd like to add is we had a congressman on our show, 33-year-old Jake Auchincloss, who actually has investments that are tangentially tied to cryptocurrency. And he ultimately said, essentially, not in so many words, but over my dead body will cryptocurrency replace fiat currency as the stance of the U.S. government, in that the U.S. government values two things more than anything else for our global standing. One being our currency, and number two being our military. So he was basically telling us that regulators in the US, EU, UK, Western world, probably Russia and China, would not ever allow that to happen. So that's just some government context there.
Though they may launch a CBDC of some kind eventually. The Federal Reserve is going to do a paper on that. But yeah, that is basically what he said, even though it's slow going.
Kind of.
But the interest in this article, in a sense, is a mechanism for withdrawing money and money laundering. Now, one of the key problems about money laundering is how do you explain unexplained wealth. How do you explain it to any tax authority? Where did that money come from? And Chinese and Russian people who want to money launder or take out dirty money from their respective countries have to still explain where did this wealth come from, and putting it into, for instance, Bitcoin or tech startups is the preferred way to do it. Now, of course, we also know that a lot of them went into Trump properties in a big way in 2015 and everything else, but and then of course they can launder the money, make it clean again, and they can explain the unexplained wealth through the dividends made through tech startups.
Thank you for that. On the staying on the theme of crypto for a second, and NFTs is part of this whole blockchain revolution, where people can sell things through NFTs, including many famous internet memes have now been sold for very high amounts of money on NFTs. Now, one of the creators of the internet, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, is auctioning his original source code for the web as an NFT, the first time he would be able to raise money directly from his invention. Sotheby's sale will be first time the creator has been able to raise money directly from his invention. Sir Tim Berners-Lee is auctioning off his original source code for the internet. What an interesting story that is. It'll be amazing to see, the likes of Bill Gates and whatnot, how much they might offer for that. People who have an affection for internet history, and like Bill Gates paid astronomical amounts for some interesting historical artifacts. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
And the article says that he and his wife will use it for causes that they care about.
Yeah, I no doubt they will. Tim's a saint, man. I mean, that's right on
Rosemary
track.
Lee's also, they're both good.
Yeah. So here's
Tyler, if I may just pivot quickly back again to ransom and ransomware, and I'm just wondering, if we should do a room particularly dedicated to bears.
To what?
To bears.
The animal bears.
Stay with me. Stay with me. Right. You remember Stuxnet, right? Out of Stuxnet came a whole series of bears: Berserk Bear, Fancy Bear, Cozy Bear, and then of course Darkside, Gnostic Players, Hafnium, Sandworm, Wizard Spider. These are all Russian and Chinese cyber and espionage teams. And I'm wondering whether I think it's quite a topical tech issue, and it's worth actually getting to grips with both the technology that lies underpinning all of this ransomware attacks, as well as cyber. Now, in 2015, for instance, Russia started off this program of information countermeasures, and that has had perhaps the most profound impact on the West, and notably the Ukrainian power supply, the 2016 election, Brexit, the rise of the far right in France, weakened security everywhere. So I'm just wondering whether in the light of Biden having this in meeting with Putin, but also to brush up on all of the techniques, technologies, and systems around and under which this is all pinned.
So thank you, Sylvan. That's an interesting point here. And Todd just shared an interesting tweet that I just retweeted, inviting him up to see if he wants to share it, because I got some interesting thoughts on this headline as well. Or maybe I'll do it for you, Todd. You want to do
it? Which one, Foxconn or Amazon?
Let's do both. The McDonald's one.
Oh, so the McDonald's CEO, former CEO, so 1965 to 1999 he was longest standing CEO at McDonald's, came out several times over the past few months and talked about the $15 an hour minimum wage in the United States and said that this is going to lead, most recently, Forbes published an article saying that this is going to lead to increased and accelerated automation in the fast food industry. And as I was listening to the room share with regard to retail, the same thing applies. So as we think about labor costs in addition to shrinkage, this is going to be a part of it. And every time Amazon makes a play, whether it's related to grocery with their Whole Foods and interests and so forth, it's also an AWS play. They're going to end up owning, just like they are logistics, they're going to end up owning the back end systems for grocery and retail and so forth as well on the AWS platform.
Hold on. Are you saying these guys are data companies? Go ahead.
Yep, it's about 16 months now. It used to be a little over 2 years. Now it takes 16 months to go from an Amazon distribution center platform to generally available on the AWS platform for other warehouse and logistics companies. And the same thing is going to happen or is happening within the retail sector. So that's that piece.
All that technology is going to get scaled too, right? So like it doesn't have to be an Amazon store. It'll probably be every store that uses whatever technology they settle on.
That's right. Whether it's mom and pops or a Kohl's or whatever the larger retail chains throughout the world, some will end up using AWS systems.
Right, but I want to add two interesting points here of personal experience, which is my startup had McDonald's as a client, and I worked with them out of Chicago. And I have to say, even as a startup working, and I worked with a lot of big Fortune 500 companies like AT&T and etc., some banks. McDonald's was without a doubt the most enjoyable and easy to work with, and they take incredible. And I have friends who own McDonald's in San Diego, and the one in Del Mar most notably. But I worked with a lot of McDonald's franchisees owners, and half the McDonald's are owned by McDonald's corporate, half are owned by franchisees. I know both. And the company, I believe, just as my own personal opinion, I'm sure others have other opinions, but for me, as a startup working with a huge company, was incredibly delightful to work with all the way up to the CEO. And they care very much about this issue, about their team members and how much they're being paid and how they're motivated, and they scrutinize every minutia little detail, which is no surprise to anybody who watched that the really amazing story about The Founder with Michael Keaton, who plays the founder of McDonald's. That's a really amazing movie, by the way. And anyway, the second point I want to make is in Scandinavia, where salaries for McDonald's staff are very high. Ellen, do you happen to have a wager, a guess as to how much McDonald's team members make in Norway, for example?
I have for Sweden. I have a daughter that's been working for McDonald's for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They actually make 18,300 kroner for a freshman right out of the high school, or what you compare it with American standards.
What can you convert that to hourly and then dollars?
Not while driving. I'm not that good at math.
18,000 kroner per what?
Per month.
And how many hours?
I think it was 35 or something like that.
So that's 514 kroners per hour. That can't be right. That's like $40 an hour.
No, you're calculating on 1 week.
35
You need to take it to 25 days or something like that.
Ah, okay. So what
18,000 for a full month, a calendar month.
Uh-huh.
And 35 hours a week.
Times 4. Okay. So what's 35, 70, 140? Sorry. Okay, so 128 per hour. So it's about $12 an hour. So, but here's what's interesting is if you go to a McDonald's in Norway, you will notice there's today maybe 3 people working in the McDonald's, Ellen?
No, more than 3 people.
It's usually 3 or 4 in the kitchen and 2 or 3 and in front and 1 out on the floor.
Right, but it's about half of what is working in an American McDonald's, if not a quarter. Because when you're kind of stunned when you walk into a McDonald's in the Nordics, first of all, how much cleaner and nicer they are. First of all, they're like wildly better kept, but and the staff there are far more capable. And but there's a far less people in the stores, and I think that's a function of they are slightly automated. Like all of the ordering is done on touchscreens. You don't order from a cashier anymore. You just order on the touchscreen, and actually,
or in the app.
Yes, or in the app. But the point of that is the technology ends up being preferable and better optimized in many ways for everybody involved, for the store owner and for the customer. So it's really interesting, with the exception that you are sharing the touchscreen with other people and you're about to touch your French fries. And that's why they're about to implement touchless touchscreens with haptic feedback in the fucking air, where you can click and feel the clicks in the air an inch away from 2 centimeters away from touching the screen. And that's a truly wild technology that we showcased at my event recently. And allows you to touch your French fries and eat your French fries without sharing the touchscreen. But that's going to become more a needed technology as we all switch to using touchscreens together everywhere. So it's really interesting point that Todd shared in that tweet, so I retweeted it. And McDonald's knows that. That's why they said that. They're not guessing. He's not stepping out on a limb and prognosticating that maybe this is going to lead to automation. He knows goddamn well it's going to lead to automation because he saw it happen in other parts of the world that have higher salaries. That's my point. Todd? You there, Todd? He's there.
He's waiting for his fries.
He's waiting for his fries. Okay, fair enough.
Sorry.
That's right.
There's also a small fast food chain in Colorado, I think it's called Good Times, that has a year ago implemented AI at the drive-thru so that you're giving your order to a cognitive tech. And the results of that have been far lower error frequency, much happier employees. Nobody really wants to work the window. And this technology is now being rolled out as well across fast food so that you're not dealing with humans. The customer satisfaction levels are way up in that particular instance.
Very cool. So our friend Faraz here is just spitting out a couple of hot headlines, and here's a breaking news one for you folks. I can't wait to share this one. Here we go. And I gotta tweet this bad boy out so you can see it for yourself from the Tech News Twitter account at TNATW. You can read right along. Here's the headline from Bloomberg. Shopify expands e-commerce pact with Google and Facebook. Canadian company opens what they call Shop Pay across social media platforms, which you're going to think I'm just being silly here. But Shop Pay is run by dear friends of mine at Shopify. It was a startup in Stockholm called Ticktail. My buddy Carl sold his company to Shopify to run the Shop Pay system at Shopify. So let's ping in my friend Carl like we did my friend Jonas a few hours ago. And let me get the link to this room and see if we can get Carl to join us and tell us all about this new headline while I read it. Shopify will open up its e-commerce checkout system to all retailers selling through Google and Facebook, expanding its existing collaboration with the two U.S. tech giants and making the first time that the Canadian technology company has offered a product to merchants that doesn't use its platform. Shoppers who connect with retailers through Facebook or Google properties, such as Instagram, YouTube, or Google Maps. Now that's interesting, and I'll explain why in a second. Will be able to pay for their purchases using Shop Pay. Starting in July for Facebook and later in 2021 for Google, Shop Pay is the checkout product that stores users' information, speeding up online transactions. Right now, retailers have access to it through those social media platforms, but they must be Shopify merchants to use it. Here's the quote. Our hope is that this momentum This momentum moment for ShopPay is a step forward to becoming the internet's preferred checkout, period, Shopify president Harley Finkelstein said. From its early days helping retailers set up websites to shift their stores online, Shopify has expanded to offer a suite of products including shipping, data analytics, and small business loans, and now describes itself as a retail operating system. Small companies pay a monthly fee for its core e-commerce software. Larger enterprises pay thousands. I want to get more into this product, which I only know it's been worked on for many months because I know the team behind it, because it's my friends from Ticktail, which I very nearly invested in, offered to do their A round for $1 million. They turned me down, but they went on to sell the company as an acquisition to Shopify, and now they run this product at Shopify called
Shopee Book.
No, they call it Shop Pay. And this is really interesting. And it's kind of inspired by their friends at Klarna, who are also in Stockholm, because one of the things Klarna does is it makes it much easier to check out when you're purchasing something with kind of one click, because it functions as your kind of digital wallet ID system. So you see an item, one click, boom, you're done. And they want to bring that same kind of experience to purchasing from mom and pop shops on the internet. And this Shop Pay functionality that Carl and his team have been working on. I need to can somebody stall while I try and bring in Carl from my Facebook Messenger here real quick. Carl.
Tyler, so
Yes.
I saw that Walgreens
Stall.
was trending, somewhat related. And apparently this guy rolls into Walgreens on a bicycle.
I saw that.
And yeah, so I mean, no AI involved, fully staffed, drugstore in the United States. And this guy, he rolls out like Santa Claus with this big bag of who knows what, just completely
and the security
brazen.
guard just took a video of, just stand on there and took video of him
Right.
and let him go.
Here,
It's so strange.
I'll unpack the situation. So this video is from San Francisco, where for the past 6 months, all Walgreens in the city of San Francisco are not enforcing anything to do with shoplifting, and everyone in the city knows it. So you get people who don't feel like paying coming in, filling entire grocery bags full of stuff like Santa Claus and walking out the front door. And this has been going on for many, many months, endlessly. And in fact, the entire shelves of every item in the entire store is completely empty. That's how often it's happening. And that's why, and this is being led by the fact that the city district attorney, Chesa Boudin, has said he's not going to prosecute anyone, even if the police did come and arrest somebody for shoplifting. The district attorney is not going to press any charges. So it doesn't matter if the police arrest them. So the police aren't arresting them. So the store's not calling the police. So they come in willy-nilly, take everything they want, throw it in the biggest bag they can find, and walk themselves out the front door like it's Christmas every day.
They don't even bring the bag. They just go to the aisle and say, "Where's the biggest bag I can find?" and steal that too.
It's crazy. I mean, but the sad thing, it's all sad, but so now Walgreens is closing stores, and it's really impacting people with mobility issues, right? So the elderly or people who just can't get around, who need to get their prescriptions.
Just so you're aware, this is why everyone's leaving San Francisco and going to Austin and Miami. Maybe the non-Americans in the room haven't connected the dots on this yet. The mass exodus of geeks out of San Francisco is precisely related to this issue, because you have crime going willy-nilly all over San Francisco. It's turning into an absolute S-hole, and it's uninhabitable, and the people don't want it anymore. And they've had enough, and they are out. They want what's called law and order. They want people breaking the laws to be held accountable.
Do I have another piece of information for you? Let me just tweet this one out. You're gonna love this one. Hang on, I'm gonna tweet it to you. Give me a sec.
But I want to go back.
On San Francisco, this is useful for everyone, Tyler, because a lot of people take it for granted about that whole story about and their chief legal guy, and how Jason talks about it a lot in his podcast.
Yeah. All of them do, because they all live there.
Understand the whole story.
Okay, yeah. If you can go back and listen to many months worth of the All In podcast featuring my dear friend Jason Calacanis and David Sachs, who was in this room momentarily in our other time zone today or yesterday, and Chamath Palihapitiya and David Freeberg, and they all live there, and they just endlessly rant about how Chesapeake is refused. And by the way, David Sachs is considering running for mayor just to fix this specifically to fire Chesapeake to fix this problem, because it is the biggest, as some have tweeted, this is potentially the biggest squandering of opportunity and wealth in the history of the human species. They have taken Silicon Valley, which is an engine of creating unicorns on a daily basis, and have thrown it into the ocean.
The thing is here, what makes me really flabbergasted is that San Francisco is a city, or quite more than the city, that is larger than Sweden in populace. And the thing is here, we have not heard one single word of the things you're telling me now. And I say that I read a lot of news daily, and this was a total news breaker for me. You are done speaking.
Well, it's no news to anyone living in the Bay Area, or even California. I can tell that much. It just is what it is.
Yeah, you make as much money as you can, and you move away from there. You live in the suburbs and in SoCal, or you go somewhere where no one else is living, because it's that's what happens. Is like, think about it. You want to save time, so you order stuff through Amazon, right? And then the stuff gets stolen, so you have to go buy an Amazon product to watch it get stolen. And when you tell the police, they tell you, I can't do anything about it. So now you're like spending your hard-earned money, then spending money to protect it. And when something actually happens, you can't do anything about it. So your only real choice is just to leave.
Yeah, as someone who currently lives in San Francisco and has had crimes committed against them over the last year and a half, this is fact. The reason why I stay here is because of, there's still a few really, really brilliant engineers here, especially when the hacker spaces start opening up again. That's why I've been waiting it out, just to be able to go back with the brilliant minds. But half of my friends are gone. That is a fact. Like, half the people I used to build things with in 2019 aren't here anymore. The ones who are here are the ones that are just really, really bullish.
Because it's hard. I mean, nothing is like California. And I'm sorry, everyone in the room, but nothing is like California. It is literally like a small paradise. And, the people that stay here, they just cope. But at some point, we're going to give up.
So I got one. I just realized we're not going to be able to wait for my buddy Carl to pop in and give us the firsthand account of Shopify's new hot, sexy product, which is going to change the world due to their partnership with Facebook and Google. You might want to buy some stock. That's not financial advice. That's just common sense, y'all. And
Tyler, can I just do the part that I wanted to tell you about?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so remember we were building upon this thesis about Latin America and then Africa, with telecom having to play a part with crypto coming in.
Yep.
And then follow the trail of the Bitcoin billionaires and where they're going.
Yep.
And then the next part was going to be either telecoms accepting payments or telecoms being bought out by billionaires or the likes of Dorsey. So just if you look at one of the articles I just posted out, you've got a telecom in LATAM starting to accept payments by BitPay in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It's just been tweeted.
Yeah. Let me try and find that, but we're closing the room because we're going to meet with our friends.
But I just wanted to mention that as the last one.
That's okay. We're going to meet again tomorrow, and we got the Tech News MedTech coming up right now. Click on the title of the room, join the Tech News Club, and you'll see that the Tech News MedTech room is starting right now with our friends Heyman, David, Dr. Danish, Patricia, Dr. Heidi, Manaz, Katarina, and others. What a good group of smart MedTech folks, by the way. I'm going to jump in there. I hope you join me. Otherwise, we will see you here tomorrow. Click the title of the room to see our schedule and all of our upcoming events, and join the Tech News room. Make your mama proud, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tyler.
We will see you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.
Ciao.
Great day.